Ola has taught us quite a lot if you've been here. Managing your expectation, emotional intelligence, how to control our emotions. Back in the day, if I'm doing this show, the way I will come for that freeze.
Man of prestige. Ha! Now this guy win. Now you win. Now you win today. Now you win. I agree. Man of prestige. Now man you be.
I'm sure some people will be jealous now the way I talk about Ola. But I have learned a lot from him. That's why I keep telling you to follow him. If you don't follow Man of Prestige, now you know.
Yeah, we find her, the beautiful girl we've been missing. We wanna have her kissing. We find her, now we in love. So I got out the remix.
DMB, Tux Bites, remix.
Now if I had to lose you like a bad phone connection, I'd change my game to get a better reception. Sit back, let's start this interaction. Don't fight the feelings, just a chain reaction. Your heart won't give you the wrong instructions. Like my GPS, yes, I got the right direction. We gotta merge together like a road intersection. Last stop is gonna be my love and affection. I ain't like the mother dudes, they wanna call you shorty, but I'ma call you a beautiful girl. I took your picture home, my mama saw it, she's a very, very beautiful girl. I wanna put you in my video, cause you're so beautiful. You're a beautiful girl. So when you hear us on your radio, turn up your stereo. It's beautiful girl.
Gotta find a shortage. What's worth of a lady? It's nice, but maybe doesn't look like 40. It's taking a little time. I wasn't seeing no signs, any traces of my baby. Who's gonna be my baby? But I thought I'm gonna take my time. But then it took a long fine eye. I saw a shorty passing by. She's got this very pretty smile. It was right at the bus station. I tried to make a conversation, holding her arms, feeling so charmed. I felt the sensation. It's been a while that I've been trying to find a beautiful girl. And now I realize I found me a beautiful girl. She's a model, she's so fine. I just wanna take it by. Beautiful girl, sparkling eyes again.
My wish came true when I saw you, girl. God must have blessed me with your beauty, girl. Looking so right from your head to your toe. Shaped like a cocoa bottle with a smile of a queen. My queen to be, you my destiny. Got a body of a goddess with your beauty. I'm impressed and I'm never in distress. Come on over and be mine. Been searching for a man and now all the cats keep looking to mine. With a sexy walk and a sexy talk, she must be from a planet called the sexy world. I know I ain't tripping, better yet I'm thinking put a ring on the finger, we look good together. Take your place in my heart with your beauty. I'ma say that I'll never turn away. Who would think I'm in love?
Such the way she smiles at me just really makes me weak. The way she speaks to me just really make me go so weak. Keep staring in her eyebrows. All I kept on saying is wow. Your beauty shines and breeze at night. All I really want in my life. Oh yeah. It's been a while that I've been trying to find a beautiful girl. Fine brown eyes. I found me a beautiful girl. She's my model, she's so fine. I just wanna take it. Beautiful girl. Sparkling eyes, killing tight. I found me a beautiful girl. Yeah, beautiful girl. What beautiful girl, yeah. Beautiful girl.
Damn. Money. You seen her? Hot Ice. Have you seen her? LP. Have you seen her? I'm gonna go over to Tux Bites. I know you've probably seen her. He has a lot of beautiful girls with him. Tux, it's DMB, baby. Look.
Beautiful.
I'm looking for a while, but I can't seem to find a
beautiful girl so I can make her mine. Time after time I've been searching for a while, but every girl I meet never seems worthwhile. What can I do? I pray to God for an answer. I feel pains in my heart like cancer, and when I find her, I'm gonna romance her. Lace up with presents and gifts, call me Santa Claus. I make a heartbeat pause. That's my girl, homeboy, not yours. The girl of my dreams, she's more than I ever thought. Show me ass and culture, I think I'm getting punked. She's what I really want, so I'm a go-getter. Since I'm a go-getter, you know I'm gon' get her. And I will give her the world, anything for my beautiful girl.
Psych. Ooh, it's been a while that I've been trying to find a beautiful girl. Fine, brown eyes. I found me a beautiful girl. She's my model, she's so fine. I just wanna take it beautiful girl. Sparkling night, killing time. I found a beautiful girl.
Girl, it's your love that I've been missing. I miss all your hugs, your touching and kissing. Make love on the floor, the couch in the kitchen. One love enough, we done enough.
Ola has taught us quite a lot if you've been here. Managing your expectation, emotional intelligence, how to control our emotions. Back in the day, if I'm doing this show, the way I will come for that fritz.
Man of prestige. Ha! Now this guy win. Now you win. Now you win today. Now you win. I agree. Man of prestige. Now man you be.
I'm sure some people will be jealous now the way I talk about Ola, but I have learned a lot from him. That's why I keep telling you to follow him. If you don't follow Man of Prestige, now you know.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen of Prestige? Welcome back. As you're coming in, do me a favor, hit that like button, share and subscribe. How's everybody doing? Good? Awesome. We have a little bit of things to talk about today. How's everybody doing? Good? Hit that like button. Thank you so much. Hit that like button as you're coming in. We have a little bit of a reaction to do today. I don't know. I think I said, did I say 44 lessons? Maybe more like 46, maybe more like 100, But shout out to DERRICK JAXN and shout out to this guy, what's his name? Dear Future Wife. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just gonna leave it in name. The podcast Dear Future Wife. Shout out to him for this content. So we will be reacting a little bit today, but I'm gonna spend a little bit more time talking about the actual lessons, because honestly, I think we'll get the most out of it. So I have not reacted to the actual interview. I'll do a little bit of that. I'll put it on fast speed, and then we'll go through it. My name is Ola. I'm coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios. This is Man of Prestige, and basically over here we'll talk about relationships from a power standpoint, social, emotional, intelligence, seduction, attraction. Those are the kind of things we'll talk about here. Welcome back. If you haven't done so, make sure you download the book for free at loveandprestige.com. It's absolutely free. It comes with a 30-day bootcamp for now. We're going to be shutting down now any minute, the 30-day bootcamp part of it, okay? But shout out to you. I have Brother Patrick is here. Hello, Brother Patrick. Good to see you, sir. I have Mo Fresh is here. Shout out to you. And there's quite a few comments that I've actually seen over the past few days. Let's see here. All right. Can you guys hear me clearly? All right. It looks like you guys can hear me clearly. I'm just making sure that the audio is not too much. Let me. All right, we're looking good. All right. Hello, D. Good to see you, D. Yep. Welcome back. So, if you don't know Derrick Jaxn is a guy who was, he has about 700,000 subscribers on YouTube. He has millions of followers around the world for whatever reason. Okay. He was ousted a few years ago, and for pandering, and basically he was accused of pandering by men for the most part, pandering to women, and a lot of his advices that he was given a lot of relationship advice on the internet, and a lot of his advices would basically circulate just around it's the man's fault. Okay, so he also spoke about that in this interview, but I don't want to waste too much time bringing you up to speed. If you don't already know who Derrick Jaxn is by now, I'm not sure if you will find too much value in this. I think you would, but either way, we're here. How far are you doing? Good to see you. Alright, so do me a favor, hit that like button as you're coming in. We are looking for a sponsor for the show. Shout out to my existing sponsors, Natu, Adesu, our film girl, Richie. These are the channel sponsors. Open Flow by Tima, Shell Mama, Gores Corner, D Love. Shout out to all of them. I appreciate you for continuing to support this platform. Please support the live stream. I appreciate you. Without any further ado, I'm just gonna play maybe a little bit of this and see if we can extract some quick lessons. Again, about 44 different lessons that I extracted. I will try to get through them. There's a lot of stuff in this, and none of them is about narcissism. Okay, none of them is about narcissistic traits. There's no lessons in this that's about narcissistic traits. I'm sorry if that's what you're looking for. There's no lesson in any of this that has anything to do with narcissistic behavior. Okay, maybe, but it's deeper than that. Okay, and a lot of the issues that this family went through, right, that this guy and his wife, and more importantly the children went through, a lot of you will go through a lot of those issues, but you brush it under the rug by pointing finger at somebody else and calling them a different some name or the other, right? And if you did that, good for you, but there's a good chance it won't work for you. Okay, because the lessons has nothing to do with calling people names. The calling people names is coping mechanisms for the most part. Okay, so the lessons are deeper than the names or the psychological terminologies, whatever you want to call it. So we're just gonna play this video and just dive in through it and have some fun. Okay, Mo Fresh says this interview is an example of why it's good to hear both sides. Yes, it is. But even at that, you see a lot of people are coconut heads still. I don't know if you noticed that. I'm gonna go here. Let me read some comment for you here, so you can tell that. So you can see that most people are still coconut heads. Okay, so this is a good comment here. In the world of hold on one second. Let me see. I just feel like I'm hearing. Okay. All right. So in the world of public opinion, it's important to hear both sides. I hope everyone learns from this to be objective and hear people out before writing them off. Great job. The majority of them still won't. Okay, they just won't. And I hate to be negative in that way. I'm saying that so you can make sure that you don't become the majority. Okay, because the top 5% in the world is always the top 5% of anything. Money, relationships, right? Health. There's the reason why they're the top 5%. They're not the majority. So just pay attention to that you don't necessarily want to sleep and face the same direction that everybody is facing. There's a good chance it's probably the wrong direction when it comes to money, health, relationships. Anyway, let's keep going. This interview just shows that two people can disagree and both be right. That's why I tell everybody they're right. They're like, no, why are you telling everybody they're right? You should just tell them they're wrong. No, because the lessons are not in right and wrong. Then when it comes to relationships, they're never in the right and wrongs. Okay, their feelings are both valid, just seeing the same thing from different eyes. Yep. I don't think that I would say this, but it was good to hear Derrick safe. So I should have given people benefit of the doubt. The first 3 comments is actually good, right? These are people say it was good, just like Mo Fresh said it was good to hear both sides of the story, right? Let's see here. This interview was very enlightening. Interesting. There's a lot of people that, now after this was the first part. Let's face it, most women would fall for Derrick. He's charming, intelligent, smooth, great posture, and easy. Anyway, let's just get into it. Let's get into it, okay? I'm gonna play this and then we'll talk as we get through it, okay? Welcome. Hit that like button as you're coming in. Let's do me a favor, okay? Let me be very candid with you, okay? Let me just be very, very candid with you really quickly. All right, right now there's 4 of you watching me live. All right, hit the like button, okay? Hit the like button and share, right? That's the best thing you can do for me, okay? If you've gotten any kind of value from here before, grab the link to the video and send it to 10 people. Just people that the closest people to you and said, check this guy out. I will really appreciate that, okay? I appreciate you. Now I will set up a program that's some kind of incentive to help me share, maybe some kind of raffle draw or something like that. I'll do that eventually, but we want to keep growing, okay? Now this topic by itself is not necessarily the existing majority of the audience topic, but it's more of a discovery type of topic. So there's a lot of people that may be the audience of the topic, Derrick Jaxn, that will be discovering this. If that's you, subscribe. We do cover a lot of relationship stuff here, and we rub minds together. We learn from that, okay? So do me a favor, just go ahead and share, but more importantly, make sure you're always religiously hitting that like button when you come here, and I appreciate you for doing that. Now without any further ado, let me just make sure that I give my guy, dear future wife, is credit. Hold on one second. Where's this thing? Okay, I will do it, but let's go ahead and start playing. Okay.
Kind of whenever she found out through the videos and stuff like that. Now how she told me she found out, I'm not sure exactly if this is it, but she went and got a new phone. It was logged into my Google Cloud because we had been logged into each other's email, and that allowed her to see everything. And I'm kind of freaky, so I was recording a lot of stuff. Yeah, I was just recording a lot of stuff. I like to see it, whatever. I like that better than porn, to TMI. But
you say you like to see yourself.
I like to see myself. I'm inspired by me in that regard. So she saw all.
He said I'm inspired by me. Somebody heard that. I was like, I knew it. What a knock. That did sound kind of like that, but we got about 2 hours of this to go through. That's why I put it on high speed. So let's keep going.
That, and regardless of how she found it, man, I just was like, it's like, what the F am I thinking? She's pregnant, and she had to see that.
Love is a treasure chest, but once for making a Dear Future Wifey podcast consistently to see next.
Contribute something to the conversation. If it's going to be had, I think it's best if it's had with both sides of the story, and one day whenever my children felt like I could contribute something to the conversation. If it's going to be had, I think it's best if it's had with both sides of the story, and one day whenever my children do see mommy and daddy talking about this, I want them to see where we both stand and hopefully how we both resolve things. So that was it, man.
You say mommy and daddy, so
the first lesson is this both sides issue, right? It's good for us as the audience that we're able to pick both sides, right? It's good for the majority because majority of people hear one side, they judge, right? But for him, he really does not need to be that obsessed with both sides, okay? If you are part of the characters in any particular story or anything like that, if you're obsessed with, I want to make sure that both sides are heard, it's going to backfire. It's going to work against you because there's an attachment going on there of some sort. There's a word I'm looking for that is just not healthy, okay? There's a neediness that's going on there that's not helpful for you, right? There's a difficulty in letting go that's going on with this obsession. Like, I want my own side to be heard too. Now, if you are in a situation with your wife and you're having a conversation and you're now doing it becomes a competition. When you find yourself in this spirit of a competition thing, sometimes that's what it shows up like. Like, it shows up as, let's be fair. Remember, I keep talking to you about the fairness stuff, right? The fairness stuff doesn't work, okay? The obsession with being fair, like, let's be fair. Let's make sure it's equal on both sides. Who is measuring, okay? It's obsession. It's not going to work. The other person's perception might be off in terms of what's fair. So when you're obsessed with fairness, it can backfire, and you will see that play a role in a lot of the conversation, in a lot of this conversation, right? A lot of the ways he's admitted to self-sabotage his own family is this playing fairness thing, being reactive, not responsive, reactive, right? Yeah, he completely worked against him. So let's continue.
Ex-wife or current wife, I know y'all going through whatever y'all going through. Danae was on the podcast. A lot of times people, when I did the episode, I was laughing a lot on the episode. She has this funny wit. She has this actually had this little Seinfeld humor.
Yeah.
Was that something that attracted you to her at the very beginning?
Yeah, she had a sense of humor since the beginning, man. You wouldn't think it because she's kind of an introvert.
Right.
So she doesn't feel comfortable talking to new people often, at least she didn't, or in big groups, but like once she gets comfortable or when she feels like she can trust you, she opens up and she's hilarious.
And so that's what happened in my pre-interview with her. I was talking to her, I was like, this girl is hilarious, this girl is funny. So we did on the episode, a lot of people was like, they're talking about serious stuff and they're laughing about it, why are they? And she was like, Lateris, if you weren't laughing, I wouldn't have been able to do no 2.5 hours of an interview with you. It would have been too heavy. I like the fact that you got my humor. And I said, I bet you that's something that Derrick found attractive in her at the very beginning.
Among other things, man,
Yeah.
for sure.
We say other things like what?
Man, first off, when I first saw her, all I knew was what she looked like. You know, so pretty face, nice shape, all that stuff. But I like that she was kind of like me in terms of like when you look at her, she's not the stereotypical thick, cute black girl. At least, you know, this at 19 years old.
Right.
And when people looked at me, they felt like, oh, you know, he's a jock. And, you know, I think you said that in the interview, matter of fact, which is not bad. But, you know, at the time I was fighting a lot and stuff like that. But
You were fighting a lot?
Yeah, man. I was just, you know, knucklehead, man. It's 19 years old. But beyond the surface, though, you know, I'm a lover. I'm kind of soft. I like R&B music. I read romance novels at this point. I write poetry.
You was doing that at 19?
19 years old, man. So, like, that version of me that's like, okay, it's not what you see is not necessarily what you get. It's the exact same thing with her. You know, she's not stereotypical. She's like Taekwondo and, you know, Justin Timberlake and stuff you wouldn't necessarily think, man. But all of that is what drew me to her. It's like my authentic self just felt safe and at home with her.
All right. So clearly, that's a real love story. At the end of the day, still, when people start telling some of this story, or when people start to interpret some of this stuff, they project. Usually, they just project. We all project, right? And then they forget that this was actually like any other regular relationship. It started. People falling in love, maybe love at first sight, people that just normal people, right? It's normal people, but yes, with broken backgrounds, traumas, you know, whatever, you know, their own reflection on life, their own outlook on life, right? Just not somebody who woke up one day and said, yeah, I'm going to be a narcissist. I'm just going to go ahead and try to be a narcissist. We forget that that's usually not the case. Just last night, somebody was almost arguing with me and saying, you know what? I think the person said 99% of the people, I think, was it last night or 2 nights ago? 99% of people in the divorce court are people that somebody said they lacked family value. The other person said they were not raised properly. I'm like, yeah, that's gross oversimplification of what we're talking about. But let's keep going. This is good stuff, I promise you, okay?
I feel really good, man. Better every day, but I feel like there's a lot of gratitude these days.
A lot of people wouldn't be able to identify with what you may go through on an emotional standpoint, especially have created a platform as large as you created, and then feel the world turn on you. How did you internalize that?
Honestly, man, being everybody's favorite ain't really been my portion my whole career. I mean, at some point, now it's more legitimate because it's behind something I actually did. But in the very beginning, I knew pissing some people, I'm trying to talk crazy, pissing some people off was going to be a price I was going to have to pay.
You knew that at the very beginning?
Very beginning. And then, you know, before all of this, there was some like false rumors. At one point, people thought Danae was white because I showed a picture briefly. I posted my baby girl, my first daughter, Marley, and her hand was wrapped around my finger and it was so light skinned. They said, oh, he only dates white women. And I lost followers. I'm talking about I was going viral to YouTubers. So honestly, man, since then, I already knew like, okay, people online, they're going to have their thoughts or what have you, and you can't see yourself through that lens. So I really haven't internalized that so much.
A lot of times people, I saw my brother, Willie Moore Jr., he posted a snippet of you about the interview that you were doing with him. That's when this dropped, that would have dropped 3 days ago. And I read the comments. It was like, why are you giving this brother a platform? Why would you do this? And all this type of stuff. Yeah. And first when I read it, I was like, now if I do this interview with them, are they gonna feel the same way? I was like, no, like you said, it's a more balanced approach. I had Danae on here. It's only fair to have you on here as well. But not even on that. But even in 2020, you checked your DMs. I reached out to you before all this stuff started imploding.
One of the few.
Yeah, and I reached out to you because I always want to have conversations with black men because in the from your platform standpoint, the stuff that you were telling and helping black women with was facts. It was no lies told.
Yeah.
What a lot of men took gripe about is that they like, oh, not only are you telling the secrets or whatever, but they kind of felt like you were pandering to black women for your benefit. What would you say about that?
Well, we kind of have this bro code, and it's got us in the chokehold. You know, and the bro code is all about having a man's side no matter what. Yeah. No matter if we wrong.
Wow, smooth talking is definitely his forte. A bro code got us in the chokehold. I have to agree with him on that, right? One of the reasons why I created this platform because I refuse to be that guy. Like, listen, I love bro code. In fact, many people will testify to, like, I love protecting my brothers. I would speak out like, you know what? No, that's my brother. Like, no, calm down, right? Only me can say certain things. But it gets to a point sometimes that I'm almost not even allowed to say some things, you know, because they will shut down. I'm not even concerned too much about the name callings or anything like that, because again, these are my brothers, okay? But I don't want them to shut down. I want them to hear me clearly. I want them to have a platform to come to hear me clearly when they are ready. After they collect the woto properly, I want them to have a place to come to not just collect not just collect, but also, you know what, maybe what I'm doing is not working. Maybe I can, you know, yeah. So he's right about that. There's a lot of people that this bro code thing is getting them in a chokehold. Guess what? There's a lot of people that the sister code thing is getting them in a chokehold too. Maybe we should come up with something slick for that one too, right? Because at the end of the day, listen, the gender thing is pretty normal for you to want to support your own group of people. That's a normal behavior. In fact, I want you to be like that. But I also want you to know when you get to a place where it's not healthy. Let's keep going.
What have you. And I think personally it's created a generation of coddled men that can't take correction from anybody, no matter how soft it is or balanced it is. So when I'm saying all of this,
they made up
you know,
their
of course
mind.
there's different layers to it. Some of them think, oh, it's because he wants vagina, because he wants money or what have you. But man, I was raised by a single mother around two sisters. Naturally, I lean towards the woman's point of view on things. Anything else would be disingenuous. And it's not that everything that I'm saying is necessarily right, but it's how I see things. And then if you take from that, just say, you know, your interview with Danae, you were speaking in a way that was protective as a brother, you know, empathetic. You was calling wrong. That wasn't you pandering.
Right.
You know, you like per the situation that you're speaking on, this is the truth.
Right.
But whenever you're telling the truth that makes people uncomfortable or a truth that's not popular, they're gonna look for a way to attack you either way it go.
I can respect that. I asked you, I said, Derrick, if you were...
See, what he just said, I'm not sure if he's completely learned that though. But, you know, it's good that this had, like, you know, a two parts. People were able to soak one in and then, like I said, a lot of people in the comments really appreciate that they got two sides of the story, right? But the loudest of them still, I think they were just nice in this guy's comment. A lot of people still they didn't like the idea of the interview at all. They didn't feel like you should have a platform. Why? The excuse is that you should never give a narcissist a platform. Right? By the way, majority of people saying that stuff, they are narcissists themselves, okay? Just so you know, I'm not defending him. He has all kind of tendencies, but there's more to the story. If that's all you can see, there's a good chance that you're the narcissist. Let's continue.
Given the opportunity to name this episode, what would you name it? What did you say?
Reap what you sow.
Why? Why'd you say that?
I think whenever I've talked about these different rules and what have you, some people take from it like, okay, he's promoting perfection. We're gonna mess up sometime. And my whole MO has been like, okay, if you're gonna mess up, you just gotta understand that come with consequences. You reap what you sow. Even whenever I started mentioning God, I gave my life to Christ February 4th, 2020. And people were like, oh, you can't bring God into it. I'm like, the God I serve says you reap what you sow. And I'm no exception. You know, even as I'm saying it, I'm living it too.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes both good and bad. But, you know, I think if we're all aware of that, we can walk according to that instead of thinking we get out because we had our intentions or what have you. For the time I spent in my patterns and the things that I'm not proud of, I gave myself an out. I gave myself excuses. Well, I felt like this and she did that. And I wasn't operating according to what you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Not what's sown by your partner, not what's sown by the circumstances, and your daddy wasn't there. So if I'm gonna talk about it, I'm gonna really be real. We gotta speak with that at the core of the message.
I respect that. Well, let's go back. I wanna go back to find out who Derrick was. Who was Derrick growing up? Like you said, I hear you just mentioned that you grew up in a single parent home raised by a mother around sisters. What did that look like growing up? And why wasn't your dad present?
So my daddy just got in a lot of trouble. You know, my mama and daddy was in their early 30s, about my age now. So he's from Jamaica. He had got into some trouble, got deported very early on. Actually, when I was 4 years old, but he wasn't in my life since probably age 1. So my mama, coming from somewhat of a background that she didn't want us to be a part of, she moved down to Alabama. Me, my two sisters, and actually my older brother. But he was
all right. So the father was not in his life. He got deported, according to him, and Jamaican. It's obviously Jamaican. You know, I knew that this guy was. You know, I could just tell, right? Now, here's the thing, right? Now, we don't know the full story behind the father not being in his life, right? For just 1 year, right? We don't know. He's not willing to tell. He probably doesn't care. That's not part of the story right now. Because clearly, like you said, this man was never in his life. Now, because there's no real crime or real offense or anything offensive attached to the fact that the father is not in his life, right? Does that mean he can just come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm the father? The reality is that my wife and I were talking about this kind of thing earlier, right? There's a gross disrespect for connection when it comes to a basic human need, okay? A lot of people will try to put biology over connection, it cannot work. People only know their father and the mother they grew up with. Okay, if they're still saying things like stepfather or anything like that, that's just a bonus. Okay, the reality is that if they don't know you, they don't know you. In fact, there's one story like that where one girl was kidnapped. Okay, and the only person she knew at the age of 21 was the lady who kidnapped her from the hospital. She was stolen from the hospital bed, right? And she could never disconnect from the person who stole her from the actual mother. Okay, she even tried to have two mothers at the same time. The bottom line is that connection is not your mate. Our emotional needs are not your mate. Okay, you shouldn't necessarily move according to your emotions. What you should do is be aware that emotions are not your mate. That's the whole point of emotional intelligence, just to be aware that when it comes down to this basic needs, right? Certainty, variety, connection, significance. People see, none of that says anything about doing the right thing. No, there's a reason why they put rules in place and they put laws in place for human beings, right? Human beings are mad. They don't care if, okay, let me calm down. But the bottom line here is, as you can tell, that he has those trauma from childhood, right? He had a father, actual biological father, no connection whatsoever, right? Can he blame that father? No, he can't. He doesn't have the luxury as a grown man to blame that past either, right? The only thing he can do with it is what he's doing today. The cards you're dealt, like the rest of us, you have to learn how to play with them. That's the whole point of game. Let's continue.
So much older, he moved out pretty quickly. And man, I just grew up. It wasn't objectively bad, but the story I created from the dynamic of not only daddy not being there and not having answers, but my mama working 2 to 3 jobs year round, I just felt invisible. You know, because like, again, I was really living with my 2 sisters and they connected to each other a lot better than they did me. Yeah. Everybody loved me, to be real with you. My mama loved me and they loved me. But then when mama get home from work, she need time just to be a human being. She got her own battle. So as she's trying to give herself, she's really stretched in. And then on top of that, again, she barely connects with me. I'm missing my daddy. So a lot of my childhood, man, was just feeling invisible, feeling somewhat abandoned. Even though objectively that wasn't what was going on, that was a story I had created. And then I acted out to get a lot of attention.
How'd you act out?
School. I was the knucklehead that made it really hard to find a babysitter. You know, they just knew it. Bud was my childhood name. Bud gonna act up. Bud don't like to listen. Bud just needed some attention. And Bud knew the world is gonna stop if I get in trouble, if I talk too much, if I get out my seat, if I do this, that, and that. So I got whoopings and all that stuff. But it was really my way of getting attention. So that was pretty much my childhood. Again, my mom was a single mom. She made everything stretch how they needed to. She taught me basically everything up until I got to 10th grade. And that's when I had my stepdaddy, Mr. Lloyd, rest in peace. He came into the picture. And he gave me kind of that blue collar work ethic thing. You know, we roofing, we fixing cars, we cutting grass. So that's pretty much it, man.
Did you have any sexual experiences at a young age?
No, never before my first, losing my virginity at like 16.
About 16. So same as me, lost my virginity at 16. When you lost your virginity at 16, what did that teach you as a man? Was that something that your homeboys was encouraging everybody in the neighborhood? What city did you grow up in?
He wasn't a man. What do you mean? What did that teach him as a man? He wasn't a man. He wasn't a man. I'm gonna push this forward again. I don't want to play the whole thing just like that. I'm gonna push this forward a little bit. It's probably gonna play. There you go.
The brand new Nira Pro.
New Nira Pro, which is a game changer. This is the Nira.
All right, let's keep going.
A bowling date.
Not 2020.
No, not 2020. Shoot, 2009. That year is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
2009, February 14, 2009. I asked her to be my girl after a bowling date. She said yeah. Then I asked her to come with me down to the lake so we could pray over our relationship. It's the first time.
Hold on. At 19, you talking about you praying with
I was actually you probably won't believe this. I was actually an average churchgoer, man, at that time. I was doing my stuff, but I also went down to Mount Olive Baptist Church down in Tuskegee and was front row every single Sunday.
Really?
Yes. I was a devout churchgoer. The year before that, I had did a mission trip out in Atlanta ministering to the homeless down by Peachtree. So, she came in, I was still in church, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to pray. I was so scared.
You wanted to pray over y'all relationship?
I didn't know what I was doing. I never felt anything like that. I never felt like I really was in love because I had a hard time letting people close to me because I experienced a lot of loss. So I could engage. I'm an extrovert when it comes to meeting people and talking, but actually letting somebody in. She was the very first person outside of my family I had done that with. So man, we prayed by the lake. I led the prayer. And then we was like, all right, God, I need your help because I don't know what I'm doing.
You said you were afraid.
Afraid.
Because you've never allowed yourself to open up like this with a woman before. You said you've experienced loss. When you say that, you're talking about what? Your father not being present? What other losses that you endured?
Mostly my father, man. And then my grandmother was a tough loss. And I learned really with that. And everybody lost somebody, but I learned with that I'm horrible at grieving. I don't do well with that. And I learned later on in therapy it's because of how I internalized my father's loss. I had so much meaning I put to it as far as like what that means for me. Like I'm not worth calling. I'm not worth checking on. I'm not worth doing the right thing so you don't have to be taken from me.
Yeah.
And then my mama, she had a thing that she would do from I'd say up to about age 7, where she would tuck me in and say, good night, Mr. B, because Bud was my nickname. And then mama got a boyfriend one time and she stopped. And for me, I mean, it's dramatic, I guess, but I said, oh, she don't love me like that anymore, right? So now I grow up and I'm really guarded. I'm really good at just going inward when I have something wrong with me, et cetera, not letting people get too close. Even girls like, oh, I can smash, we can do whatever, we can talk.
All right, let me say this right now once and for all, okay? Let me say this once and for all. this guy is a lover boy. It's only lover boys that end up in this kind of situation that's extremely messy like this, okay? When I say lover boy, that doesn't mean that's not necessarily a good thing, okay? That's not necessarily a good thing, okay? Lover boy, maybe there's an intersection between a lover boy and a nice guy, right? A nice guy. They tend to be they tend to be entitled, okay? They feel like just because they're good, because I did this, I deserve this, right? They play that give and take game a lot, right? Like, because I did this, because I'm good to you, his own idea of being good, of course, they expect that thing back. And a lot of it stems back again to people's childhood, but a lot of it is also personality, okay? So even some people would have a good, quote unquote, generally accepted good childhood, but because their personality is just like that, they hold themselves to certain standards. They expect you to bring that same standard into a relationship, right? And a lot of time it becomes unrealistic expectations, you know. And then you start hearing things, because I think you mentioned something about he was feeling rejected, and somehow that indirectly led to the cheating, you know. These are some of the reasons why people will call him a narcissist, because as much as he's holding himself accountable throughout the interview, right, he will say little piece things like that, right? And then, you know, and then people are like, wait, you just took like 3 steps backwards, right? So feeling rejected leads to cheating. It's like, you cheated. It's okay. It's okay to just say, to just acknowledge. You don't have to tell the whole world. Just acknowledge you cheated, right? But when you start to give excuses for it, when you say, because I felt rejected, right? Then people start to question the authenticity of what you're saying, you know? So that's one. And then another place he said, we're triggering each other, you know? We're triggering each other. I'd rather you say, I was triggered. I'd rather you just focus on just you, how you feel, right? Because that's always valid. That's always valid. Focus on how you feel. Don't worry about what the other, even if they've told you a few times, you know, they can change their mind. They can say, no, I wasn't triggered. Like, they could be telling you that in a different context altogether, right? There's something to pay attention to, but let's continue. It's probably going to still mention if I didn't already skip it, but these are some of the lessons I just already covered, about 4 of them. Okay, let's continue.
Oh, but I'm never going to give you my heart.
Yeah.
But with Danae, none of them guards stayed up. So I was scared, because I know, like, I'm feeling something I've never felt before, and I don't want to mess this up. I know she's too good for me. So, like, God, help me become somebody I'm not, because I don't know what I'm doing here.
So during that time, you wasn't the type to be monogamous, was you? You just said,
I didn't have no relationship to be monogamous in it. I was doing my thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so this one, you just said, why do you want to give it all up for?
It wasn't relevant.
I felt something with her I never felt before. But it was emotionally based. Looking back at it now, it's like, man, I was so unprepared. And for something like that, you don't know how important that role is. You gonna play in somebody's life where you gonna give them your heart and they gonna give you theirs.
Yeah.
You hand somebody the keys to your sanity, your physical health, and so many other things. But we were taught that, you know, if you love somebody, you just go be there. And you trial and error. And there's a high price to pay for trial and error, as we both learned.
So as y'all were dating each other in college, what that looked like? What grade were you in at the time?
I was a sophomore. Second year, she was a freshman.
All right, so sophomore and freshman, second year, and you were like, this is my woman. Were you exclusive with her during that time?
The first couple of months I was exclusive. I don't know if I ever had the proper boundaries, but for me it was like, you know, of course, don't cheat. Don't go sleep with another girl. But I would say after that honeymoon phase, the first 2 months is when I can remember. I don't remember the exact thing, but I remember feeling really rejected by her. And I didn't know what was behind that, because, okay, I don't have aggressive energy towards a woman except in intimacy. And so how I would express my affection oftentimes was aggressive. Like, I want to pick her up. I don't just kiss her. I pin her up against the wall, put my hand around. I'm not trying to get graphic. There's context here. So, you know, come up behind her and hug on her, you know, kind of aggressive. But that would make her really, really shut down. And I didn't know what was going on. I felt rejected. Like, why you don't want to kiss me? My breast thing or something like that? So we would have, and not only was she shut down then, it would be tension. It would be almost hostile. So again, this wasn't until about a month and a half, 2 months in, where it's like, now it's back-to-back things. Now I come up on the kiss her and she like kind of pushing away. She can't stay far enough away from me. She's kind of mean towards me. And it's kind of a flip side. And I didn't know part of what I was feeling didn't have nothing to do with the relationship. It was much deeper. But I remember like man, my breath getting short. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I ain't never been so sensitive to rejection, because we all get rejected, but this is the first time I felt that. And what felt safer was to go out and at least have friendships with other girls. Just the conversation felt like receptiveness, like acceptance again. But those loose boundaries turned into no boundaries. So, you know, if we continued to clash and she continued to pull away or what have you, and I'm not getting no answers or whatever, I'm, especially in my prideful state, I'm thinking, man, she got me effed up. So I'm over here doing the right thing, and she over here acting like I ain't nothing. So now there's a party tonight, or there's a girl on campus, and then she got her own dorm room. And that's whenever I started messing around.
Which is interesting. Now I realize something. You were trying to be on the straight and narrow, and that aggressive personality that you had, because she told me, well, she told us on the podcast, that she had experienced a rape 2 weeks before y'all met.
Yeah, so she, and
you didn't know nothing about it.
I didn't know about that till 5 years later.
Exactly.
I don't know if she wants to speak on it, so I won't go in depth, but there was another instance of rape in that same 30-day span before she met me. So I didn't know to the level or at all that I was dealing with a rape survivor. Even if I knew that, I probably wouldn't have known how exactly to handle it.
Yeah.
But certain forms, and we covered this later.
Oh, man. So, I at 19, I don't like the idea of being too, like, so deep inside of a relationship in that way, right? You know, people have puppy love, relationship, you met a nice girl in college. I know it's pretty common, but I just don't, that wasn't me. And whenever I hear this, I'm like, no wonder. At 19, it's just too early to be to be in too deep emotionally with another human being like that. Like you said, you don't even know what you're doing, right? Why just calm down and focus on your books, focus on studies. If you have a nice little girlfriend, yeah, sure, you guys can hang out to do whatever, but relax. Did they say they went down to the pond so and they were praying? Oh, Lord. It's just too much, right? Now, somebody probably taught them like, yo, yeah, you should do the prayer, and then, you can have it forever. Somebody probably taught them that nonsense. You're going to see the spiritual thing play a part in the demise of their relationship as well, okay? It just got worse. You see the thumbnail, right? It gets worse, And it's not because of that thing, but some things belong in certain parts of life, right? When you are young, I need you to be young, meaning be young, okay? Some people are light years ahead of the years. I get that, okay? But just again, if you're swimming against the trend, you just want to make sure you know what you're doing, because that's gonna tamper with the rest. You still have the whole life ahead of you, right? But at 19, to be all this serious about you met a girl, you're in love and all this, like, calm down. That's what I would tell them, like, relax, okay? What happened? Okay, relax, back off of each other. Jesus Christ. Now you're talking about feeling rejected by a girl at 19. I don't know. There's more to that. Let's continue.
Later on in our marriage therapy, but because this was a pattern. Everything that happened that was really painful was really one long repetitive pattern.
Right.
Me feeling rejected for this, that, and the other, and she handles, becoming okay again a certain way. But I didn't know certain forms of affection that were natural to me just felt scary to her, put her back in a certain space where certain things that happen. So yeah.
And that's so interesting. It's like, I'm getting understanding. It's like you have this woman who has experienced this huge violation of her body, her soul, her spirit, this brokenness. She meets this guy who she says she just loved the mess. She loved your dirty draws. You're wanting to show your affection. You grabbing her about her neck. You being aggressive physically, from a sexual standpoint. She's getting nervous. She's getting triggered on all levels. Don't even realize that she's being triggered like this. She's closing up, rejection to you because you've experienced that growing up. Mom no longer is kissing you and tucking you in bed at night, rejection. So now you're like, well, now I'm gonna go self-medicate. I had this history of looking at porn, and now the way I self-medicate is watching this. So now I'm gonna do the outward extension of that. Yeah. Now I'm over here hanging out with girls. One thing leads to another. Now you're over here smashing. Now it's triggering her. How did she ever find out when you first cheated on her?
It's everything you wish for. Site traffic is skyrocketing until.
All right.
My affection, she was triggering me in a way. I didn't just continuously, because I had this weird thing, man, where I would do it and feel guilty.
Would you
I'm tripping. No, heck no.
Okay,
no. So I would do it and be like, oh man, all right, you messed up, you did your thing. Again, but we kids at this point. We're 19,
so when the
20
girls
years old.
running back to it?
Nah, they didn't do that either. I don't even know if those particular girls knew we were together.
You walked around holding hands on campus? Not
all of them was on campus. Not all of them was on campus.
Yeah.
We're talking, I'm trying to dig back, because this is 15 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
But I remember, I don't know how she knew. I don't think the original one or two or whatever she knew about, but I know we had a falling out because her and her friend, she suspected of something. Her and her friend used to have this thing on Facebook called Honesty Box. And it was where basically you send anonymous messages or whatever. So her and her friend set up to send me anonymous messages to try to see if I would bite on the bait of another girl trying to flirt with me or something like that. I would have this, and it's again pattern. I'm cheating, now I'm faithful. Now I'm cheating, now I'm faithful. So in this point, I was faithful. Yeah. I'm like, oh, no more girls, I felt terrible, that ain't it. We done made up or something. Like somehow we get to talking and we back in love again. So this Honesty Box message is coming in, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Now I got a girl. And then I'm hearing ding in the other room. We got an apartment here. Yeah. And I'm like, so I sent another message, ding, went into the room, her inboxes, and I'm like, oh. So we fell out. She suspected me of cheating at that point, but she wasn't right about that.
Yeah.
And
she wasn't right about that time. That time I was cheating, but that time I wasn't not really cheating. But there's this other time I was actually cheating, but this other time I wasn't cheating. Oh my God. Have you ever put yourself in this position having to do this? you need to fix that. That's still never going to work. Okay, shaming, blaming, explaining, mansplaining, shalaye, it still won't work, right? They don't believe you, all right? Every time you say, oh yeah, but that time I was really cheating, but this other time I wasn't really cheating. Whoever is on the receiving side of that one moment when you were cheating, they don't believe the rest of it, okay? Because you know what, trust doesn't work like that, right? Because once you tamper with trust, you tamper with it, it's over, right? It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. It's a process. Changed behavior, the most important ingredient in all of it, right? And letting go, you need to let that go into the past. The moment you bring it up again, either in the form of interviews or, hey, it was nothing, like they relive that experience all over again. It takes over even the moment in time, right? And I think he's still struggling with that. Mansplaining, shalaye, explaining, shaming, blaming, all of these things. I know some of them even contradict each other on paper, right? They all create the same result. When it comes to emotions, it create the same result, right? No, I wasn't really cheating that time. I was at that time. No, but that time, is... They don't believe you. She will never believe you. It's no wonder, because imagine if he was doing this inside of the relationship, right? It's no wonder why they could never make it work, right? Because they keep reliving that terrible experience over and over again because they have a need to continue to... They have an obsession with being right. Let's continue.
And then from there, man, it was kind of all downhill because we got into a really bad argument and, all this other stuff.
Well, she said that in the times where she would catch you back in college, she would never tell you anyway. She would go in the closet and cry, and you'll come like, hey, everything cool? And she'd be like, yeah, everything fine. Well, she'll say, it's my dad. I'm grieving the loss of my dad.
Yeah, that was a communication style, period. Without cheating, I may say something that offended her. I learned later on in therapy with her that sometimes my facial expressions while I'm listening would trigger her because I think her dad or something like had that going on. So a million things.
That is the real thing. Facial expression. Men don't understand it. Facial expression, your gestures, your movement. If you're too animated, it can trigger women, okay? You pay attention to that. All the while, you were just trying to be right, okay? You're just trying to make a point. Like, that's all. Like, my point is, you're triggering her. The facial expression, you're triggering her. And a lot of that can be traced back to you don't know how to let go, right? It's an obsession with being right. If you know that you're right already, why do you have such a urge to shalaye? Why? Like, because if you don't know that you're right, that's a problem. But if you know that you're right, why the urge to shalaye? You're already right.
Oh, you're right.
Or maybe you're not right. If you're not right, why not just let go? Well, if you're not sure, which is a bad trait for a masculine man is sure of himself. But just in case you're in a place of weakness, moments like that can come, right? Why not just back off a little bit, right? What do you think he did in that relationship? It was probably actively on a consistent basis arguing with the lady, right? When you combine that together with everything that has been happening before, right? With all the history with her traumas, right? That had nothing to do with him. When you combine that together with they're both good people, you really think just being good people is enough, right? I was watching another stream earlier. The person said DERRICK JAXN still don't know women. There's a lot of things he's saying here that makes me feel that way too, but I think he doesn't know people, he doesn't know emotions, period. Because he really, this idea of that's the story I told myself, like, don't say that in interviews, man. That's psychological room language. That's counseling room language. That's something a counselor will say to you. That's a story you're telling yourself. Like, just lose that lingo completely because it's confusing people, right? Your experience is your experience, right? Your experience is telling a story. Sure it is. We know that already, right? This is how I felt. If you're the subject, you need to say, this is how I felt at that point in time. Right? And you should give some room, space in time. Maybe 10 years when you're telling a story, put in a book. This idea of interviews, I guess is cute now, But I promise you, there's somebody picking this video apart right now. They're looking for the worst of the worst of the worst to continue to call him a narcissist, right? Now, as a content creator, I understand he needs to put something out. But, well, start documenting and putting the real, as you live life, you know, just as you're going through stuff. This is what I went through yesterday. You can do that, you know. But even that, you know, I would just be very, very careful. But the psychological language is just, it's weird. But let's continue, because I'm rambling now. Let's go.
Things could be wrong with her, but then again, this dynamic of I'm begging for her to tell me what's wrong, and she don't. And I could take rejection maybe 1 or 2 days, but after 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, now I'm starting to check out and detach without actually leaving. So it wasn't just the cheating that she wasn't talking about. She literally, if she had an issue, she held it in until she blew up.
She said that. She said she held something in like 10 years and then blew
a lot of stuff, man. It wasn't just that. It was a constant thing of, you know, communication is key, but you're not communicating. And so I'm over here begging, trying. Because sometimes I'll be doing stuff and I wouldn't know it was bothering her. Like, so for instance, I was kind of a flirt. So I would say, hey, beautiful, or whatever to a girl, think nothing of it. But then she would hear that and be like, you call me beautiful. So understandably, she's offended, she's upset. Like, what, you know, you tripping, like, don't play with me like that.
And that should only, if you have a girl, if you have a wife who finds that offensive, you should only do that once before you realize you should not do that again. Some people don't have a problem with that. Hey, beautiful to another random chick. And some people have a problem with that. If she expresses herself one time, either verbally or non-verbally, as in like she shows visibly that she's upset, that should really not have to repeat itself again, unless you're a coconut head. Right? At some point in life, as a man, priority awareness, right? What's the priority? My wife or this random chicks that I'm calling beautiful? You don't have to call her beautiful. You don't have to call her beautiful in front of your wife, right? But I understand you make that mistake one time, right? I understand that mistake comes up again in a different form, a second or third time. At some point, she doesn't want to share, period, right? But I'm guessing he had a coconut head. He wanted to, like, no, but I'm a man. Like, no, you have to pick one, right? You can be a man in that respect, or you can, you know, keep your home together. But I really don't see a big deal that in my wife, but I'm the beautiful, right? Why are you calling another woman beautiful, right? Like he just said, that's understandable, but he's not understandable after he's lost his family, right? Why do you have to wait until something crazy like that happens, right? Anyway, let's continue.
She don't say anything. So she wasn't vocal, but she was expressive. Because it ain't like she just didn't talk.
She wasn't vocal, she was expressive. She's not really different from a lot of women, okay? Or a lot of people, okay? Let me just say a lot of people. Some people they'll rather shut down, and that's their way of communicating. A terrible way of communicating, you're right. Remember, you're right. But this is your wife, this is your husband, right? So it's in your best interest to approach this from a place of understanding. In not judgment and not correction, because this is your wife, this is your husband. If you're going to correct, you better make sure that it's within a controlled environment and that your message is going to be heard. Because if it's not going to be heard, the other flip side of that is resentment. Or they will fire back at you, and then you're engaged in an active bass with your partner, right? Priority awareness. Some things come before the other. You have to be able to discern and know, like, okay, if I do this right now, it's going to mess everything else. You have to have some foresight, especially if you're the man in that relationship, in a typical relationship. You have to be able to see ahead of that. Some things you lose so you can gain bigger in the mid to long term, right? Because if you don't do that, what happens? You now settle for things like, oh yeah, I felt emasculated. I felt like that's because you're focused on the moment in time.
Oh, she showed that she was upset, but it was with, again, rejection, hostility, name calling, walking off in the conversation, and that go on for weeks up until I pull away. Then she gets suspicious.
That's a real thing that a lot of men are going through, and they don't know how to handle it, including him. And he was advising women on relationship. Like he said, he admitted to it. Like he was advising women because that's just his genuine way of, that was him being authentic, right? Because he could only see things from a standpoint because he was raised by a woman. And he said, when I keep telling you, oh yeah, it's not a matter of, listen, when you're raised by just women, it will show up some type of way, okay? It doesn't always show up the same way, but there's a construct going on. There's a programming going on there. You need to be aware of that, right? And it's a double-edged sword. It can work for or against you. It just depends on case by case by case. But if it works for you, usually that's just a short-term thing too. At some point, there's a downside to that, but you need to be aware of it. If it works against you, right, it's the same thing, right? So it's something to pay attention to, just to be aware of, and not take it as an attack, right? You know what? If I'm raising a son, right, he's going to jump out here and just start addressing and advising people from one lens, from just one way of looking at life. And unfortunately, there's not just two ways of looking at life. There's multiple perspectives for every individual involved. There's a version of the story. There's a version of the story. This is why there's never enough patience. Okay? Because oftentimes you think you've seen it all and I should just make a judgment, and it might be just too forward, right? There's a blind spot. Let's continue.
Better for the next however many years.
So when y'all graduated graduated college, what was the state of your relationship?
Oh, we had just broken up. So I found out about her and a gentleman. I think she mentioned on the last podcast.
She said that she was trying to get you jealous or make you jealous about a coworker that she said we created this thing to make it look like this is somebody I was dating to make you jealous. But
we remember that differently. If I pick that cup up and I pour with the contents in my mouth and I swallow, did I make it look like I was drinking? So we've always differed on this, by the way. So I'm not trying to just stir nothing up. No, so I had a nonprofit when I was in college. I wanted to tutor and mentor, all this other stuff. So one of the things we did was we held events. I had a Christmas event that was like that previous December toward the end of college. And I had saw her and the gentleman, the young guy, speaking for like an hour. Now, up until this point, Danae had always like tried to kind of be perfect in my eyes. Like, I think she thought if she ever showed a flaw or whatever, I would just leave or something like that. So I was like, this is bold. You know, at my events, like hundreds of people, I see her just chatting it up. So from December all the way until we graduated that late May or something like that, I had seen the cars together. I had seen all these different things.
And the coworker that she had.
Yeah, coworker, any classmate or something like that. So fast forward, and I'm thinking at this point, first off, we already coordinated where we're going to work after school. We're going to be in the same state, because I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. But at this point, I think it was really a lot of what she had been holding in, because I had been unfaithful, and I had cheated and all this other stuff. I think she never fully expressed herself on how that affected her. So at this point, I think it started bubbling up to where she got really hostile. Like, man, I don't care what you say. So she's out overnight. It's like, I went to sleep at the gas station. I'm like, went to sleep at the gas station? Went out again overnight.
Gas station?
We were staying together.
Okay.
We started staying together like year two.
Station?
So you saying so she left the house and then come back the next morning?
So like 9, 10 in the morning. And this was unlike her. She was not this type of girl. But she's wearing makeup now. I know she got some hood rat friends from Sonic where she worked, and I know she hanging with them. I'm like, what is she doing? I'm not sure who's involved. So she did that 2 nights in a row. Then one night I came home. I forget where I was at. I wasn't doing, at this point I wasn't doing anything. I kept going up and down. Came home in the shower. I came in just like me, but I'm very affectionate. My number one love language is physical touch. So first thing I do is get my kiss and hug. She's in the shower. I go right up in there, and while she's in the shower, she's wet. And she's like, and I'm like, what's up, baby? Kissed her, came on out, and the phone is on the counter with the messages up. And he's like, is he home? Can I slide? Da, 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 da. And I'm looking real quick, and I see the name. She jumped out, wet, snatched the phone, and I was like, oh boy. Went to the living room. I searched the name on Facebook, saw some stuff. And I was like, that's the guy that she was talking. Da, 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 da. So long story short, man, that was a big blow up, and we broke up. And then years.
All right, so you heard that story. I'll let that play a little bit while I'm talking really quickly. Two lessons, okay? Two quick lessons right there. That we remember that differently. See how that simply came out just in this interview? That was a big blowout in their marriage. That became a whole big blowout in their marriage, okay? That became a very nasty argument at some point in their marriage. I want you to be clear about that. It sounds cute now. It sounds very simple, right? What it looks like is that, no, you're a liar. No, I'm right. No, you're wrong, right? No, I remember it differently. It sounds nicer that way, right? But when it's between a husband and a wife, that's not a fun experience to have. A lot of resentment will be built. Okay, that's one thing right there. Okay. He also says she's got some hood rat friends. If you refer to your girl's friends as hood rat, right? That's not gonna fly that simple either, okay? These are the people she chose to be friends, or she got this type of family members. Well, the way she was raised is different from mine. She knows exactly what you're trying to say, right? You don't have to go that far. You're better off just saying it with your full chest and say, I think your family is trash. You must just well say it, because you're creating the same effect eventually, okay? Because she's already insecure probably about that, because you've hinted it. She's gonna already start to feel funny that you look at her friend in a funny type of way and stuff like that, right? Now, in addition to that, what did she do? She decided to be vindictive. The way she told that story on her own side of the interview was that, you know what, I decided to stage something to make it look. Apparently, the guy already passed away now. To make it look like I was cheating, but I wasn't really cheating. That sounds the same thing as well. This time I was cheating. This time I wasn't cheating. That time I was cheating. Like, listen, the number one key thing you should understand about this is you need to let go. And what that looks like is a very tough thing to do when you in fact feel like, well, there was this time that I was right. What about this other time that I was doing all of the right things, right? If you're obsessed with those moments where you're doing the right thing and you're trying to use it to erase the experience that she remembers, even if she was present when you did all the right things, or vice versa, it will work against you. Okay, let's continue.
At what stage and age did the birth of the Derrick Jaxn that we see on social media, when did that emerge?
It kind of started, I would say, about 2012. I can't say social media because now I talk a lot about relationships. I didn't start off with relationships.
What are you talking about?
I was talking about police brutality. I was kind of like one of them online activists.
Oh, really?
My first time going viral, my first time on national television, I went on CNN. I was speaking on behalf of Walter Scott Bush. My first time going viral, it was about Trayvon Martin and Rachel Jeantel and those folks.
That's what you were doing?
That was my first thing. That's the first thing I went viral with. So the first like 50 or 100,000 people that was on my page, and I only separated it because I didn't want people on my personal page aggravating, how racist it is.
Yeah.
So I created a separate page where I was talking mostly about that. Occasionally I was sprinkling relationships though, because I was always a lover. I always loved love and talking about love. But
did you hear that? He said, I was always a lover. I always loved love. Did you hear that? Right? He's a lover boy. He loves love. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But but that also tends to come with certain entitlement attitude about relationships and love, okay? Like, because I love love, because I'm a lover boy, I look good, I hit the gym, I do all the right things, and I love God, right? There's no such thing as game. Yes, there is. Let me give you an example, right? He said something to the effect of, we had this thing to tell every sexual experience you've ever had. Why? we had this thing, right? That is a disconnect from the truth that at the end of the day, number one, you're both individuals, okay? Number two, yes, your past, even before y'all met, can still hunt you down and can actually destroy your future, right? Because, nothing, no big deal, right? We're just loving each other right now, so let's tell everything. Well, it's the same thing that she might use as a weapon against you. Slow down. Actually, you might end up using her past to shame her directly or indirectly. Okay, maybe you didn't mean to shame her, but you mentioned, well, remember you had that past about those guys that mess with you? Is that why you don't want to touch me? Is that my breath smelling? Well, in that moment when you are engaged in that shalaye explaining mode, shaming and blaming is actively happening in the same breath. And then you're wondering, why is it that she can't admit or she can't accept me, right? You talk too much. You talk too much. Lover boys tend to talk too much. You talk too much. Yoruba people said in their infinite wisdom, right? It's not everything that crosses your mind or your eyes see that must come out of your mouth. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why it's ancient, timeless wisdom, right? That's game for you. It's not like listen, sometimes you're just gonna be comfortable and share pillow talks, right? But maybe if you're just aware a little bit that you shouldn't talk too much and reserve some for tomorrow, some mystery for tomorrow, something to look forward to tomorrow, maybe you won't say so much, right? Maybe you would be, we had this thing where, where we just talk about every sexual appearance that we've ever had. Why? There's nothing wrong with that as a game of some sort, but at that, you should still reserve something, man. You talk too damn much. I was always a lover. Yeah, it comes with the entitlement spirit, okay? To the point that after their first experience, they decided to write the first book called A Cheating Man's Heart. Why? Why are you writing a book on cheating right after the cheating, right in the middle of the cheating? Why? Oh yeah, because I just like to leave it in the moment. Like, no, Jesus Christ. Solitude. Go and sit down somewhere. Sit your ass down somewhere. Especially when you're still in the funk of things, which right now it still is. You need 5 to 10 years. 5 to 10 years. Find something else to do. No, this cannot be your purpose. Okay, no, but it's my purpose. No, it can't be. You're going to sabotage, self-sabotage everything. What about your children? At some point, you have to look at the bigger picture, right? Make up to break up to make up. Lover boys tend to do that because they're obsessed. They're obsessed with, it's got to look a certain way. Like that movie from Nollywood or Hollywood, that love story. That's what they're thinking always. Reality doesn't work like that. As a grown man, you're supposed to be busy. You're supposed to be busy with some active things going on. Even if you have crisis in your relationship, there's only so much room you should have to be catering to that to an extent where you lost your cool. But guess what? Lovers boy, they want it to be perfect. So when the woman says, I'm shutting down, I don't want to talk right now, they don't know how to let go. They don't know how to say, you know what? I'm going to let her be for now. No, they want to talk about it right now. Especially if it's a person who create content around love. Like he's psychoanalyzing the whole situation. Let's talk about it right now. No, you are part of the character. You need to sit your ass down somewhere. Let's keep going.
But yeah, man, this was 2012, 2011, 2012. When I first went viral, I went to work and I saw like 15,000 people liking the page and so on and so forth. I ain't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
But I was just speaking my piece on whatever I felt was true. But then that became too heavy. It was like, it's so dark and it induces this helplessness. And I don't know how people do it now when they get up and talk about that every day. It's not that it's not important. But anyway, I was just like, I kind of want to stick to just the lovey-dovey stuff, man. So I kept posting my poetry and, different, and all that stuff. But people, like now I got like 85,000 people looking at my page. And now what they see is at least relationship conversation. And so then they would ask questions. And that's whenever, I don't even know what year that was. That had to be about closing on 2013 sometime. And I wasn't trying to give like this expert point of view. I was just more like big brother. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, this is what it is. I'm not no knight in white shining armor, but this is the truth on what you're talking about. And so they began curating more of the conversation now, the DMs, the comments and stuff like that. And little by little, they started going viral.
Word. He was just talking about how he started the relationship talk thing.
That's one enough to say, let me leave.
He was talking about, he said, he kept talking about what he felt was true.
This other stuff along. And then,
right? What you feel is true. What I feel is true is not necessarily true. The only source of truth is time, okay? Maybe results, but even some result is temporary, okay? But time, right? When I say time, it doesn't end either, right? It's unfolding, right? That's the source of truth right there, right? Especially when you're going to use a language what I felt was truth. The feeling part is that's your own story. That's the experience you're having, or your experience you've had, your outlook on life, right? So even when you're offering those, I am doing that right now in real time, right? That you always, if your plan is to be centered, well centered, you always have to leave some room for maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't know something, maybe there's something I don't know. Let's continue.
Android, now interview over. I'm
tricking you.
Yeah, tricking me. You iPhone people. And so you start doing this content. And so what kind of feedback did you get from your brothers? Like dudes that where they like, man, come on, man, what you doing talking about this stuff or this? Like your inner circle, how did they receive it?
My inner circle knows me. They know first off I'm kind of soft. Like I always like things that most people didn't like. Okay. I watch a little bit of sports, but not big on sports. I always love. Whenever we used to freestyle back in the day, I was always on love topics, all that kind of stuff. So, But outside of my inner circle, I got a lot of feedback. That really kind of got with the videos, the comments, and all that kind of stuff. Oh man, but it's just like, bro, truth is true. Like again, like you just think yourself back in the worst decision, whatever they may be. If your female cousin, auntie, mama, sister come and ask you a question about a dude, you're gonna keep it straight with him. 100%. You're not gonna tell them, oh, he put his hands on you because you didn't have the food ready when he got home from work. You're gonna say straight like, no, he put his hands on you, but he probably wouldn't talk out of line to a dude the same size as him. 100%. Cowardly, right? Yep. So that was the perspective. But as people came and piled in, and again, I never branded myself because it wasn't about no brand. I just wanted to do what I was doing full time. So
you wouldn't even know it at that point. You don't know how this could grow.
That was not a thing whenever I first started. Right. It was like maybe two guys. I think one or two guys that was doing it professionally.
Who was doing it professionally?
I want to say Tony Gaskin was one of the ones, and then a brother by the name of Stefan Speaks. They had a thing going on, and I still didn't know their business. So I didn't know this as a profession. But that was the feedback. But then guys that actually talk to me in real life, we always left the conversation them understanding what I'm saying in full context. So if a woman asks you a question, you're gonna speak to that context. Yep. But of course, it's a larger conversation on both sides of the coin.
And when did you start knowing that? When did it click? This can be monetized. Did it happen from your first booking that happened? Somebody said, hey, why don't you come speak at this women's thing about this? You're like, wow, I can get paid for this. How much I charge? $5? What would I charge? Yeah. What was the first thing that made you say I could get paid for doing what I love doing?
First off, I published my first book, 2013. It was a romance novel though. It wasn't no advice, 2014, 2015.
What was that called?
A Cheating Man's Heart.
Okay, so that's when you then
Yeah, but it was tough to sell because I didn't know how to show the value in it because I didn't have no quotes in it or nothing like that. So then I was like, well, speaking. But I was deathly afraid of speaking. Really? I got booked for an hour, funny enough, in Montgomery. And I think it was about $400 that I got paid. I had everything up in my mind. I'm gonna say it, and I had everything out in 10 minutes, and I had another 50 minutes to go. I was sweating just like I am right now, except I ain't had nothing to say. So I was like, well, speaking probably ain't it. And then I was like, from there, I had to figure out other ways to make money. So, you know, even to this day, my content ain't how I make a living. I have other businesses, but I had to figure out, how do I do marketing? How do I do Google Analytics and Facebook and YouTube marketing? How to do these other things? Because I'm not getting no money. At that time, they didn't have no monetization for Facebook and all that stuff. So if you didn't have a product to sell, if you weren't getting brand deals, you ain't making no money.
Facts.
Yeah.
Did you ever get brand deals?
Not like as a long-term thing. I did a couple of things for like the last OG show and stuff like that.
Yeah, but not like the way it is nowadays where they do like,
I stopped even accepting them because I felt like they would always try to control me. Like my thing is, like, I can't be bought. I don't care who like what I'm saying. I don't care the feedback.
He's a coconut head. He can't be bought. Okay, he can't be bought. You can't finesse him. I'm always I think on my own feet. Right. It doesn't matter what is actually happening in the world or social construct or information that we know that tends to happen from time to time. Right. It doesn't matter. I think for myself. This is how I think, and that's it. And it is going to be that way. And if you don't like it, screw you. Until you find out, like, wait, I'm married to a person that, my children are involved, maybe I can adjust without losing a sense of my own personal value. Maybe I can learn something, one or two things to still adjust, be able to take care of another person, but not lose my own sense of value. But Coconut said, no, that's the way it's supposed to be. It is what it is. Ade O says, Mary says, good evening. This episode with Jackson was somehow, he started off with taking accountability, then he began somehow justify his actions at some point. You know what? Yes, I can see how it to come off that way. Okay, in fact, that's why I would rather if he not talk at all, because there's no way if he came and just say I cheated, I was wrong, I did if that's all he did, right? Would that be enough for an interview? The answer is probably no, right? If he said, well, I cheated, I was just wrong. No, this interview will not go as viral. That's number 2. But by the time we start to break it down and do Shalaye, which is why I think Shalaye is a bastard every day of the week and the year, right? There's no way it's not going to come off as, is he justifying there? He's justifying there. Let me see if I can have an example for you here. The first thing he said is, I'm inspired by me. The first clip that he showed in the beginning, he said, I'm inspired by me. He liked watching himself performing on women. Remember, he talked about the performative thing, right? He liked looking at himself. If a person refused to go past that first 30 seconds, they're going to be like, there you go, a sense of self. Whereas on the second episode, he got to a point where he said it was a terrible decision on his part to even talk about himself in third person and this and that. He also talked about the PhD thing that everybody on the internet has in narcissism, right? He talked about that as well. So it's very impossible that he would do an interview and go in depth that the people that already feel some type of way, the public in general, will not be like, yeah, he's justifying it. That's precisely what the whole interview is. It's like, okay, I admit to this part, but I didn't admit to this part. Or I admit to this part, but this part is a little balanced. Shalaye doesn't work. People that have already made up their mind, they've made up their mind. Don't engage yourself in explaining yourself to people that antagonize you. They don't really care, okay? Oftentimes, they're looking for a little weapon to drag you even further. I'm not talking about you, of course. I'm just telling you how these things work in general, right? So if the goal was to not come off as justification at all, right? The best bet is don't do the interview. Okay, don't do the interview. Or you make a statement on your own platform and say, I was wrong, I cheated, I don't deserve that woman, she deserves somebody better, right? The moment he came to do this interview, that's exactly what it is. It's justification, right? Even though he tried to balance with accountability, irony. That's what I said earlier. Maybe you just came in. I said I cheated at this time, this period of time, but this time I didn't really cheat. And then this time I cheated a little bit, and then it was on and off. And then this time when she reacted this certain way, I was not cheating at that point in time. Are you confused?
You think they're wise?
Don't put, including you that you're watching me right now, don't ever put yourself in that position, okay? Try not to be in that position. You need time. patient, process, change behavior. If you feel like you were actually wrong, changed behavior is the best form of apology. Okay, it needs to be accompanied by time, process, patience, as usual, because you need value in it, right? And then with time, you might be able to decide. If you have to say anything at all, make one statement and keep it going. This interview, for those that said, oh yeah, he's been a narcissist by doing this interview, that's why I understand them. It's, you know, if he's continued to put himself out there, it's in bad taste. But he claimed that it would be nice to have the other side. People that are obsessed with both sides of the story. It's the same issue. It's the Shalaye obsession. It doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. But yeah, good point though. Good point. Then he painted this picture of he is the financial provider. Oh, you caught that, huh? That never works. Especially when you're married to that person. Like, but I'm the one taking care of the family. I know. I feel you. I'm a guy. I've been in that position before. I felt the need to spell out what I used to do. Like, can you point out the things I do too? But it doesn't work. Okay? What you're going to do is shoot yourself on the legs precisely by way of your family and lose your family. Because that's coming off on the other side as, yeah, even if they can't express it in words that is offensive, right? You're not going to get any. Okay? You're going to go for months and not get some. So they're not supposed to do that though. That's against the duty. Well, they're precisely going to do exactly that because they now feel like a second place citizen in that household. But it was true though. I did pay the bills. I know. That's why you're collecting Uto. Telling you, if you don't find other ways to interpret this event for yourself, you will continue to collect. Yeah. Taking care of his ex financial anyways, he didn't take full accountability of his action fully. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult for him to do that. Hey Tima, good to see you. Welcome. Help me hit that like button as you're coming in if you haven't done so. Thank you. I found the part about his mother-in-law attending marriage therapy with them very shocking. More fresh. We're gonna get there. Yep. Just so you know, MOP, I maintain my stand on this guy. Indifference, he can't fool me. I don't blame you. That's because the whole interview is... The only thing that's going to get out of this interview is just extra popularity here. But you might get a little bit of sympathy for people who care enough about the content creator to watch the full thing. I think the people who care about their future wife to watch the whole thing, they found some space there to say, okay, we heard the two sides of the story, right? But here's the issue. When you say this, that lady she's not innocent. She's not innocent. Okay? Just list out all the characteristics or traits of narcissism. She exudes every single one of them. Every single one of them. She did. Just like he did. So it's two to get two. So it's not really about that at all. It's about what can we learn at a deeper level like we did 2 days ago when it comes to the intricacies or the little moment by moment in this story. We have a man who was continually over and over argumentative with his wife, with his girl. We have a man who was extremely entitled because I'm paying the bills. I did all the right things I should do. What about all those moments that I didn't really cheat, right? The entitlement is more of a bigger deal than the possibility of a diagnosis of NPD. Because a lot of people play this in their relationship, right? And like you just said, more fresh, bringing your mother into therapy? What if you were not with a narcissist? Do you think that will ever work? That will never work. Ever. That will never ever work. Right? Do we have a name for that in the psychological books of life? Maybe not. Because why? Because men that will need to buy these books, they don't buy shit like that, okay? Men are coconut head, they will rather buy there. Right? But women will buy books. Particularly what DERRICK JAXN was taking advantage of before. They will buy books. All you have to do is give it a name. Give that behavior a name. Like, yeah, women, when the narcissists do this, they never listen. They always, all this, everybody's a PhD in this topic. It's deeper than that. All right? The best of you are going to be married to some of these attitudes and behavior. An entitled man, a wife who can't see that you have feelings as a man. A wife that, like, surprise, surprise, men have feelings too. Right? That's going to happen to the best of you, regardless of what names you want to call it. Do you know how to handle that? Do you know how to respond to that in a positive way that will create positive results without shooting yourself on the legs? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. That's the main thing here that we're talking about. Those are the things that we need to be talking about, you know. Your famous quote is always resist the urge to shalaye. That's what all of this is coming down to, because if this guy would just know how to back off a little bit, especially with a woman who has past trauma and things like that that you're aware of, if you just back off and stop the urge, resist the urge, right? Because he's still doing it right now. That's why he was writing a book about the cheating man's heart. He needed validation at every stop he gets to. So every time he didn't get that validation from, quote unquote, his new mother, the wife, he will go out and seek for it, right? Because it was never self-sustainable as a human being, right? Even when it looked good on the surface, it was pouring through those YouTube channels. The first time I saw his video, I was like, yes, there's a disconnect somewhere here. I don't know. It's not like it sounded one side. He just sounded like a lot of assumptions. It was a gross level of assumptions in that it was the man's fault. It was just 1 or 2 videos that I saw. I didn't really know his name until after it was exposed by Tasha K. But I'm just letting you know, these issues they're not what it looks like as far as the obvious are concerned. It's about at least 44 data points that are found in this. Okay, make up to break up. Okay, he talked about the single or not. She had to do that. She had to see that. That comment in the beginning that she had to see single or not. That was single. She doesn't need you to be. She doesn't need you to be admitting to all these wrongs, because people like Tima and people like Ade, they still don't believe you, even though you seem to be admitting to the wrong. They can read between. They can hear all in between the lines that you still have the urge to shalaye. The urge to shalaye is what it looks like on the surface when some people say this is narcissistic traits. It's just like you're talking too much. Even when it comes to apology, you can't say apology. You must end it with but and then start another sentence, right? Because you must justify. Yeah, I'm kind of sorry, but not really. I'm not really sorry, but but because it was because I was rejected. Yeah, all of that issue right there is terrible apology, which a lot of people think. A lot of people will still come to me and say, "Oh yeah, all you have to do is just say I'm sorry," and then you have a long time. I said, "No, you won't." Apologies are most of the time destructive, because the person you're apologizing to all the time, they don't really value your apologies anymore. Right? Just because you're admitting to being wrong doesn't mean you're going to create good results. You need to think a little bit deeper than that. You need to think further than that. How are you going to think further than that if you don't even have patience with yourself? No, I have to have answers right now. I have the answer right now. In fact, let me write a book right now on the cheating man's heart. You don't know shit about that. You don't know anything. You are the subject. Unless you are telling a story, unless the only thing you care about is these books, right? We're talking about your family, which he clearly cared about, but it's also that was accompanied by a lot of entitlement attitude about that, which is why he's arguing like, but I did this, I tried this, but I tried to, yeah. It's a very, very common, There were a lot of baby deletions in their relationship. Both when they were in and out of relationships, both of them subscribed to it. She's not innocent. And I think that's irrelevant, because guilt, innocence, all this kind of stuff is just anti-seductive statements all over the place. Guilt. Right? The discrete logic thing, right or wrong or anything like that. It's not relevant to me if she's innocent or not. It's not relevant to me if DERRICK JAXN is innocent or not. But he does not know the game. He hasn't learned anything about the game. At least the only thing he's learning is, oh yeah, that was a story I was telling myself. What the hell does that mean in real life? The story you were telling yourself? What are you talking about? You're a crazy person. I know what it means to use that language, but why are you using that language when you're talking about yourself? What do you mean you're telling yourself story? Oh, that was my experience. That sounds a little bit easier to comprehend. Like, okay, that was your experience. Even that is too, like, if you're talking about yourself, don't say that was my experience. Use I feel. Well, I felt like, well, this is what I saw. Use a little bit, 5th grade level. 5th grade, 4th grade level. I felt like, that's not what I saw. Well, that's a lie. If you're not going to come on this interview and say that's a lie that she just told right there, don't do the interview at all. That's why Shalaye is a bastard. Even when you're right and you think you figured out how to say all the right thing, you will still be wrong. Because why? Because you believe you're wrong. That's why you are doing Shalaye. Right? And everybody else, they don't really have a choice than to agree with you. It's always deeper than right and wrong. Always. It doesn't matter if she's right or wrong. It's irrelevant. But no, she's not innocent because the other side keeps coming from that other end. Like, oh, she must be innocent. This guy is just evil. Like, there's no sides to this. That family is done. They will all, including, unfortunately, their children. I hate it. When I say children, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play the clip. The wall color. Sorry. Yeah, it's not as simple as black and white. No, it's not. It never is. That's why you have to be patient. One stage at a time, one little thing at a time. Let's continue, Sha.
Man, look, I'm gonna say the truth. I'm not gonna be a sellout. And a lot of times the brands would be like, oh, well, you gotta take this video down, especially about the black stuff, pro-black stuff. And I'm like, I'm not taking anything.
Did you get that attitude right there? That's a personality. I'm gonna say the truth. I'm not gonna be a sellout. I'm gonna say the truth. I'm not gonna be a sellout. That's monopolizing the truth. First of all, who told you you're telling the truth? You're only telling the only side you can see, the only part of whatever you're talking about that you're privy to, right? But I want you to pay attention to the personality there. That personality, that coconut head. Like, yeah, I'm say the truth. Nothing can stop me from the truth. And then you're wondering, like, oh, but Ola, that's the problem with you. You never really tell people the truth. Because I don't fucking know the truth. The only thing I can tell you is my experience. And I also understand there's limitations to it. There's oftentimes I can't see all the way through. So I am patient. I take my time. That doesn't mean at some point I won't make a decision. At some point you got to make a decision to take a stand. But no, not as fast as you would like, okay? Because nothing is chasing me. Heaven will not fall out of the skies right now. Relax. I need more information. If more people do that inside of marriage, do you think it will last longer? Why is it that they can't do that? Because they're obsessed with being right. That's the issue. Obsession with being right. That's the problem. If you disengage a little bit, just small, like maybe there's more to this story that I need to learn. If you do that often enough, it will make a massive difference. What if you have a husband who does that so that you can clear? You can see a little bit, right? Imagine a guy, you see how huge he is on the screen right now, and he's arguing with you. This guy is no less than 6'8" foot and 400 pounds, and he's arguing with you, and he's telling you he's right, and you think you're right, and you're like, It's not a pretty sight if you can imagine that in your head, right? It's not. And by the way, he believes he's right. Not only that, you believe you're right. Right and wrong, irrelevant. But who's going to tell who first? Who? I prefer that is the man. Because our social construct allows for that. And not only that, the woman will multiply what you bring to the table. She creates nothing. She multiplies everything. Why won't I lead? That's like shooting myself on the legs. It makes no sense. A lot of men don't understand this.
Down. Yep. If I say I love even black women, if I say I love black women, I'm adoring black women, I'm sorry to those whites and non-blacks that get offended, but this is how I feel. So I stopped doing brand deals, and that's why I really learned business so I could be independent with my voice too.
That's real. And so then what initiated the move to Atlanta? You want to get closer to your mom, 4 hours drive, that y'all moved together in solidarity, that you say?
We planned it first. We planned it first. She had got a job down there. By this time, I was a full-time entrepreneur. But then we broke up right before we even went down there. We were some making up and breaking up fools. So we went down there separately. She went to stay where she was at in Dunwoody. I forget where I stayed, Dallas, Georgia, something like that. And yeah, this was another long single season.
Oh, excuse me. How many skincare products do you own?
All right, let me just read this really quickly before we'll continue there. Brother Patrick says, 2 wrongs cannot make it right. You can't cheat because your partner cheated. Yeah. But you know, there's a lot of vindictive people out there. There's a lot of vindictive women that somehow they will lose their cool and they think it's not always intentional. They've lost it all. They said they don't care anymore. Like, so they get out there, they do the I don't care attitude. Before you know it, they fell mistakenly on the prick. It happens. Okay, it happens all the time. Just FYI, just in case you didn't know, it happens more often than you think. He doesn't know anything about the game because he has not an ounce of capability. No, he's still obsessed with being right, which is why I think they're calling him a narcissist. Okay, that's the whole point of the interview, right? Because he came here, he admitted to a lot of things. It still wasn't enough. If he had game, he would know that there's nothing that will be enough. He said it in words in certain places. Just saying it in words is not enough. You need to be able to practice it. As in, like, you just know, you're like, no, I'm good on that. I'll continue to create my own content. As a matter of fact, I'm looking for other people. I'm going to interview other people that will teach me so I can stay and just listen to other people speak. Do you think if Derrick Jaxn wants to set up a podcast and interview people like, what's his name again, Lateras? Dear future wife, interview Stefan Speaks, interview, if you think people go on this platform to just hear him learn? What if he says, I'm learning, and then definitely I didn't know jack shit. I need to learn. Do you think people will still listen to that? Why wouldn't he do that for the next 5 years, 10 years before he decides to put his testimony inside of a book? Right? Why won't he decide to do that? You know why? Because he's obsessed with being right, like the rest of us. This is not just a small population of the people. No, it's majority of us. We're obsessed with being right. That's what we need to be looking at, not the diagnosis, the medical diagnosis nonsense. Let's get back to the. No, wait, hold on one second. Before I get back to it, he doesn't know anything. Okay, I just say I think the take home for me from the episodes is that the childhood trauma is the devil. Yeah, but if we all had a perfect childhood, we would all grow up perfect with no relationship issues. Thank you. You caught yourself, because we all have what you might consider childhood trauma. Of course, right? Of course, everybody has, of course, you might have seen with my father here a few weeks ago and be like, oh, but you don't have a say in this. Yeah, I agree. You're right, But the truth is that anyone can claim that's, childhood trauma stuff, which means 2 to get 2. Right?
You're right.
Yeah, 2 to get 2, right? It's all equal now. We're all dealt the same cards on the general scale. As an adult, a grown man, what are you going to do with that, right? At some point, you're going to be asked, what did you do with that? Well, some of you believe in heaven. When you get to heaven, God is going to ask you, what did you do with what I gave you? Talent, the parable of the talent. God is going to ask you, oh, what? I gave you only 2. I only gave you 1 talent. Just 1 talent. Okay, well, anyway, what did you do with it? The same question, right? Same question, 2 to get 2. Just FYI, right? So I think you answer that question yourself, because if we all had a perfect childhood, it's not a question, I guess a statement. You completed it yourself. Thank you, Ade. He loves black women, yet he can't provide a safe space for the one he got. He couldn't. He wasn't capable. He didn't have the skills. He jumped out there, started advising women. Oh my God.
Not be juju be that.
Let's get back into it.
I'm gonna take the baby off the grid. Yep. And it shook me into, I had to talk about that again, because my mind is, oh, she would never do something like that. Yep. But she was like, oh, I was just.
I'm gonna take the baby, move with my mom.
Yeah, but she said, I'll be off the grid where you can never even reach me. And I was like, okay, I never heard that before. But anyway, fast forward, it stuck with me even though she said, I was just talking, I was just upset, my pregnancy emotions. But I also, whenever she had found all that stuff, the videos and stuff, I was just like, man, you gotta tighten up. You can't be on this. I don't like the example I'm about to set. At this point, I'm in my career, I'm talking about family values. So I was like, all right, time to cut the whole phase short, time to lock in. And I made my mind up like, I'm gonna propose to her. I'm gonna give her some time to heal everything or whatever. But New Year's Eve, I planned it all out, started paying for the ring. I'm like, it's game time.
What if you could do SEO smarter?
All right, so let me cover a couple of things right there while that ad plays. Let's do this. Let's cover a couple of things, okay? They did a lot of baby deletions together, okay? When you doing dating on and off, or you're lingering around as an adult in our society, you will end up doing the same thing, okay? So a lot of baby deletion, intentional, non-intentional, the one they lost, right? A lot of that happened, right? So again, a lot of the advices that you're hearing, a lot of the woke advices that you're hearing out there, it's not working, okay? There's, listen, there's nature and there's nurture. There's social construct that we construct for ourselves. Some of them, both sides, there's things that you push against them. There's a right time to push against certain things. For the most part, you just want to understand what you're pushing against first before you push against it. That's why we say like, well, I just do me, I just do my thing. That thing doesn't work. You need to understand what you are not doing before you can claim I don't want to do it, okay? So that's one thing right there. So if you want to play around in the streets all the way to your 40, 45, 50 and stuff like that, sure, just understand that you're not going to escape. There is no escape, like you said on that first video. For all of us, there's consequences, both good and bad, for any way you move. That's what we call life, literally. It's not just your fault, it's not just my fault, it's just the way things work. That's what we call game. Learn how it works so you can work it in your favor for the long run, right? Overall, you can look overall in the last 10 years and say, oh, yeah, I had this moment, but it wasn't bad. Thank God I'm here, right? That's something we should pay attention to, right? You also said probably more than I wanted to be a father, I wanted to be a dad. That sounds very beautiful on paper, right? If you write that in a book, like, oh, Lord, that sounds good. Right? Did you know that there's a downside to that? Are you aware that there's a downside to that, right? What if you put all that energy you put into being a father, you understand that what part of being a good father is that I have to be a good husband, right? What does it mean to be a good husband? Well, you're not really going to know in your own particular story until you fall on your face a few times and you say, whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me talk to someone. Do you think a DERRICK JAXN was willing to talk to, like, oh, let's just go to therapy. It's just time to go to therapy. No, he didn't. You know where he went? He went to pastors and prophets. Why? Because once somebody's rhetoric does not align with what he feels, it's like, this is all full of it. Like, nah. He's just jumping all over the place, right? Plus, he knows so much. See, when we're very opinionated, like myself, I keep telling you that, we have to be careful, okay? Just 2 weeks ago, I had to get off my butt and go and talk to my counselor, right? Because it's not all, like, and it took everything in me, because honestly, I can basically explain everything and rationalize everything. As good, as sweet as that sounds, do I need to tell you the rest of it? Anyway, so there is a downside to everything. Everything in life is double-edged sword. So you have to always assess things from at least two sides. Well, I like this. It sounds good on paper, but what are the downsides? Are you assessing what is the downside? What is the downside of being obsessed with being a good father because you didn't have a good father? What are the potential downside of that? Well, what are you talking about? There could never be a downside. Exactly. Coconut head. Exactly. Right? Maybe the question should be, well, enlighten me. That's a blind spot that I haven't paid attention to. Right? But you could still be right, by the way. But at least make sure of it, right? Slow down. Where are you rushing to? The only thing you have is time. The only thing you don't have enough of is time. Okay? Time is not your mate either. So you can't waste too much of it. Okay? Anyway, and then she threatened to block him from his babies. Everybody talks about narcissist thing. They don't talk about everything that transpired between that. What about everything that happened in between? Do I understand why a woman would be in a place where she's emotional and will threaten with a baby? Yeah, I do. But that is a real thing. And when you are engaged with a man who doesn't know any better, what do you think the reaction is going to be? When a man, most of these men don't have any game. When you're engaged or you're married to one of them like that, what do you think is going to react? What if he's been watching the Red Pill community? What do you think he's going to be like? Well, screw you then. You can go your own way, right? Is that good, bad for your children? Something you should pay attention to. Just know. Because again, you just need to know these things, be aware of these things so that you just calm down. When you're seeing these things, just say, hey, there's something there. This is how I feel about it, but there's more to it. I want to learn more about what's going on there, you know? Yeah. So a lot of time they find themselves in places where they say, if we can make the relationship work, I want to try again. If we can make it work, I want to try again. They did that multiple times, many times over. Before we saw what we saw in the public. You must be in a place where you are able to assume that happened, that there's a lot that transpired behind the scenes. You have to be able to predict that. Like, you know what? I'm seeing something on this surface, looks like this, but there's more to the story. There's got to be more, right? Yeah. So, what do you think about this statement when people say people with narcissism pick their victims intentionally? Do you think this is true, or is childhood wounds at play actually? So, it's possible, okay? But the question is, what do we mean by intentionally? Okay? If I have a serious acute need for obsession, right? Obsession with being right. I needed to be right when I engage my arguments, right? I might look for a safe space. I might be subconsciously or consciously or unconsciously looking for where that feeling, that need to be right will thrive more, right? I might be like, maybe I'm dating people in college. I'm like, yeah, there's certain type of girls I'm not going to engage, right? Well, if a girl is a boss chick and all this kind of stuff, I'm not going to engage her, right? Right? We can easily translate that, oh, so you're looking for victims. Is this intentional? What do you mean by intentional? Is there a spectrum that we're going to measure this at? Let's think a little bit deeper, right? Beyond intentions. Or am I coming from a weak place? Is this my own insecurity that's making me look for a place where I can, my voice will be heard a little bit more? Did I go through, like you said, childhood trauma where I'm being abandoned a lot? So, I'm not going to play in areas where they won't let me talk, right? Or, no, I just don't tolerate nonsense. If I can't express myself in the way I know how to, there's no point. It's pointless. I'm not going to do that. There's just so much, right, going on behind the scenes that we're not previewed to in order to call it one thing or the other, right? But it can be interpreted as that, right? So when it comes to intentional, there is intentionally conscious, subconscious, unconscious. I'm consciously deciding where I want to play, where I want to plant my flag. I'm consciously saying, you know what, I have a better chance of winning here, right? Well, there's a certain type of personality in a girl that I like, that I feel like I can thrive with. I can call it, I'm looking for compatibility, right? Somebody can say, hey, I'm looking for a victim because they had a past relationship with me and they thought I was a narcissist, right? It's all over the place. It's messy. That's why no one should be generalizing, because you're projecting, right? It's case by case. Even when it comes to you as an individual, every event is different. There's some core principles that every event is different. So it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily false. It's just a case by case. It could be true. It could be false. It's just too much information that we don't know. But let's continue. Thank you that's a good question though. Thank you.
At that point, was it led because of the pregnancy? Was it led out of true love for this woman? Is it led for, like, what initiated and made you say, this is my world that I'm in. I have this platform where I'm sharing this. I have this child coming, but I want to go ahead and marry this woman.
The platform impact was the least of it. With her in that time, even though she was pregnant, she actually was helping me with work a lot. My business was picking up, going crazy. You know, this is the first time. I think it was the first.
The platform was not the least of it. That's cap. The platform is not your mate. Okay.
Stop the cap.
Just as 11 of you are watching me right now, it does something to me. Okay. I am subconsciously aware, small. There's a way I move. There's a little filter I'm putting on right now. I'm trying to be myself. I'm trying to be honest. I promise. Okay. But I'm still putting up a front because I am aware that 11 people are watching me. How much more 700,000 people? Right? And you're deciding if you want to stay with your wife or not, and a bunch of rumor just came out of nowhere. And you're telling me that is the least of it. It's probably the majority of it. Those attention, the monitoring spirits, they affect everything. That's why the higher you go, you must have people around you, which is what he was looking for when he started linking up with these guys. You must have certain network around you that can hold you accountable, because the bigger you get, the more unconsciously arrogant you're going to be. You don't even know it. Listen, and you deserve it because you have the platform. You do have the audience. It is what it is, right? But the other downside of it is, you know, you might just be full of yourself oftentimes, right? That filter that comes on, that you know, there's something, there's a filter that you put on, maybe not intentionally. Well, it's not your fault that 700,000 people look up to you and they come to learn from you. For whatever reason, they find value, even if it's just entertainment value, in following you and following your lead. If you're a normal human being, you cannot tell me that that's not the biggest factor in the decisions. Okay, at least one of the biggest factors. Well, Allah, I don't know about you. For me, it is not. Well, you are capping, like I said.
Stop the cap.
Yeah.
First year I made 7 figures, and I'm in my 20s or whatever, and I'm like, I can trust her. Yeah. She was with me when I was broke, you know, whatever. It didn't happen over the years, but at least I know she doesn't want me for my money. Yep. And she's carrying my baby while helping me at work. If we can make the relationship work, I want to try. And this time, knowing what I know, because now I'm teaching the masses, I'm like, I know how I need to come. I need to secure her in terms of my intentions, and that's where the marriage part comes in. Yep. So she knows I'm not playing no games. I got now the financial pieces there, so she already ain't working. But before Soft Life was cool, I was like, I don't want her to have to worry about anything financially.
Yep, she said that.
I'm all in.
Financially, she was good.
Yeah, financially, because, you know, another pain point was I saw my mama struggling. And I always felt like if a man was here, she wouldn't be, you know, how she is, tired all the time and gone all the time. So 2 things I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to be a present father, and I wanted to take some weight off of my lady's shoulders. And from there, I was like, whatever. I think if I come in and I do my part, the rest is going to fall into place. But it don't work like that. I see, and I had to learn some therapy, man. Like, as much as we know we cultivate a version of a woman, she exists outside of us.
Of course.
Well, it's easy to say that, but then when you in it and you know that you're doing this, and this, it wasn't just financial. If she called me at any time, I don't care. If she wanted me to run to a place and get her some food at 1 or 2 in the morning, it's like whatever. And I'm sitting there building that into, that's going to produce a certain version of her. But that mindset didn't allow her to experience remaining trust issues with me, postpartum depression. Oh yeah, all of these different things. They ain't got nothing to do with how I'm treating her. Right. So without considering that, man, I personalized everything going into even the engagement and on forward, man. So yeah, that was my thinking. Like, we gonna make this work no matter what. But we still had not properly set the foundation, reset it from all the years past.
And when you decide to marry her, you made up in your mind, I am done with all these women. This is my wife. I'm going to be an honest man.
He did that multiple times. Don't forget.
When I made up to just get engaged with her, I had burnt all the bridges.
Oh, you did?
But the thing was, with me, my boundaries were loose at
Explain.
best.
So boundaries I had bad boundaries when I was married. So I just want to hear what you consider bad boundaries.
So I may have a woman that I slept with before, even in our singleness. I may have one I had sexual history with before, and I have no problem carrying on small talk. That's one boundary.
Right.
He had no problem carrying on small talk. That was accountability, right? Small talks are your enemy, okay? Or the people that are culprit of this the most as women. Oh, he was talking to a woman, obviously, right? Right? So I guess it's both, right? But a lot of women are very naive about it. It's just small talk. It's not a big deal. Like, it doesn't, it's harmless. What, that one? No, of course I don't want that one. No, emotions are not your mate. If he's feeling a void or unbeknownstly to you, oh yeah, he can, even, by the way, you don't have to sleep with him before he can effectively destroy your relationships. Okay, you don't really have to sleep with him. Oh yeah, but you can end up sleeping with him, just so you know. That's also very, very possible, because you're not fighting flesh. I'm not sure if you're aware of that yet, right? There's forces of evil everywhere. Oh yeah, they're not going to come down in the form of black clothes. It's people. It's people. It's you and I. Okay, we are our own worst enemy sometimes, and sometimes it's coming from a good place. You remember what he just said? He cuts, like he bombed bridges, right? Oh, I block everything. What else about block everything? You want to block everything? Sure, block everything. Okay, should he be blocking everything? Well, if that's what you need to create boundary, you don't understand boundaries, because that boundaries actually is on yourself, and sometimes in the form of systems, right? Purpose, right? Purpose. Are you engaged with your purpose? If you're not, you will open those boundaries. Same way you block it, you will create another bridge. Okay, it's basically a bunch of fake bridge burning that he was doing all over the place, because anytime he feels a little bit rejected again, guess what he did again? He rebuilt another bridge. Precisely, right? Oh, like I said, we all do it. We call it boundaries. Loose boundaries. What is loose? These all loose boundaries. If you don't take care of the actual issue, the underlying issue, it's all loose boundaries everywhere, right? But I don't think he gets it yet. I think he gets some of it, but no. But he's right. That it wasn't gonna just because I did this. He personalized everything he said. Like, it's just my fault. It's just my fault. That doesn't work either, because she doesn't believe you. Oh, let me just go to her and tell her everything is my fault. No, it's not that simple. You're trying to oversimplify the issue. It is not that simple. You're trying to avoid time, patience, and process. And of course, more importantly, change behavior, which takes time to see. Potentially, they will never see it, which is their loss. It is what it is, right? But no, let's skip all of that. Let me just tell her I'm sorry. Let me just tell her that it's all my fault. No, that's not going to work either, because we're human beings. We have incredible radar for BS. She can tell that you're faking it. Okay? She might just call you a narcissist. This is just another way for you to control situations. And it is. It's controlling behavior, by the way. It's manipulative. Maybe coming from a very subconscious place. Some people just don't know about these bad habits. It's like ingrained in them. Somebody taught them that all you have to do is just say I'm sorry. No, anything, whatever it is, including the I'm sorry, if you do it, overly do it, it loses its value, right? They can smell it. They like, you say I'm sorry all the time, you never change. You ever heard that before? Yeah. Let's continue.
Going out where I knew somebody else was going to be there, that's a loose boundary. It's like, somebody that you had sexual history with is at this place. There was one situation where a girl that I had some sexual history with, she did some work down in Atlanta, so she was flying in way before she had asked me to give her some books or something like that. And I kept that commitment to meet up with her and give her books instead of telling her or just telling her, no, things have changed since the last time. So these are the types of things.
It's none of that. It's not about you meeting up with some ex-girl that you had sex with. There's none of that. That's all overthinking at that point in time. See, I don't want you to oversimplify. I also don't want you to overthink, right? All of this tactics is disengaged from what that woman needs or needed, right? What is it that woman needed? I haven't really heard anything with respect to that, right? Nothing. It's just, I did the right thing. I burned the bridges. I shouldn't have met with the girl. Like, oh, well, she saw videos and so well, that's recklessness. If you're keeping those kind of videos on your phone, you're a married man, right? She logged into Google Cloud, she saw a bunch of stuff. Well, it's none of that. It's about in real time, even in this moment, which is all you have, you're still perpetuating the issue. It's still continuing, right? You end up in toxic 2 hours argument about how you've changed. If you've changed, you wouldn't need to argue about it. That's what I can see happened in this relationship. It's just him trying to prove that he's right over and over again. And anytime he doesn't get his way, he go and perform wrong and then come back and say, okay, that was just that moment. That's I was going to get right back, right? And then he comes back and then he's trying but we weren't really together. Like, you're still shalayeing.
things that I didn't notice until way later, Danae would see or have whatever and have a problem with. Of course. Because even if a girl is hitting me up saying, D, you know, my mom loves your stuff. My colleague, you know, is a fan of yours. And I reply like, oh man, thanks. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate that. You know, hope everything's well. Danae sees that at the corner of her eye when she goes to my phone and says he's talking to women. Yep. So for somebody who hasn't healed, it's triggering all over again. But in my mind, I ain't smashing these women. For every woman that I'm even having a loose boundary with, I'm curving women 10 times more. So on into engagement, that was the first time I was like,
that's an excuse. I can relate with him what he just said. Like for everyone that I curve women 10 times more. She's like, oh, so you need candy because you curve women 10 times more than those one time you engaged them that I saw. You need some candy? That's the way she would be interpreting that. It's lack of game that will make him keep saying this kind of things. It's the shalaye thing. Let me spell it all out for you so you can completely see where I'm coming from with this. No, you need all of the nuances and all the context. No, not with your girl. Okay? It's the experience she's having right now. Does she feel safe, secure? Listen to me. You could be doing all the wrong things. Let me tell you a little secret about women. You could do all the wrong things, right? Now, she would tell us that, no, of course, if you do the wrong thing, I would never accept. It's okay. Ladies, listen to me. You could do all the wrong things, right? Okay? Now, if she thinks you're doing the wrong thing, that's not going to make her feel the next step I'm about to tell you. If you did all the wrong things, as long as she feels safe, secure, and loved, SSL, right? You get away with it. Oh, I know, like, wait, Ola, wait. What happened to boundaries? What happened to him not being a narcissist? No. Listen to me carefully. If she thinks you're doing the wrong thing, that's gonna make her not feel safe. You see how that tampered with feeling safe, right? If she thinks that you're kicking against her religion and she thinks being a Catholic is end all be all, if you kick against that, because again, it's about knowing your woman, right? What is it that makes her feel safe? That's going to make her feel unsafe, right? All of it goes back down to it, right? If she thinks that you're running around town and you're going to bring diseases to the house, that's not going to make her feel safe, right? But if somehow in her own brain, if she can see all of that, if she dims it like, okay, I'm not worried about all that, and she feels safe. Some people, it's money. For whatever reason, money make them feel safe, secure, and loved, right? That's all it takes. All this, that's why all of this shalaye. If you do all of the shalaye and you break down all the pieces of how you were right, and she's reliving the terrible experience, you see, it's not gonna work. Even though you're right. You're potentially right. Hey, I was trying to be the good guy. That's the majority of what I got out of the two sides of the interview. Okay, I'm a good guy. I had childhood trauma. I tried to do the right thing, man. And then he made the statement. Right earlier. I said I personalized everything. I was wrong about we cultivate a version of a woman. No, you weren't wrong. It's still true. Context matters. Okay? If everything else were perfect and equal, your woman is still a function of who you are. That's how the society is set up. That's the social construct. She wants you to lead. That is still very, very true. Okay? However, right, if she has all of this trauma and all these issues that's between you and her, and you're trying to do if what you mean by this is let me just do the right thing so that you can, no, you're wrong. You're the one you're just wrong about that. You're not wrong about we cultivate a version of a woman. We do cultivate a version of a woman, but a lot of these talking points, you got to keep them in certain types of context. Oh yeah, but Ola, there's no game. It depends on your definition of game. Like, yeah, duh. What are you talking about? Did you find out what I'm talking about when I say game? That's part of the lack of game. Because you're not even patient enough to see, let me listen long enough. Maybe I can learn one or two things from his perspective. Somebody just reached out to me, the young man who said somebody filed a false claim of abuse. Hopefully that's the right person. The person left a comment earlier. I said, hey, I would like to tell you the rest of the story. I said, yeah, reach me out on Instagram. I would love to. There's a fact I will learn something from him. Right? Maybe he's going to tell me more about the story. What did I say in the movies? In all the stories, in all the videos, I said, tell me more. Where's the rest of the story? That's what I always ask for, right? Because I want to learn more. Okay? So we do cultivate a version of a woman. That's a fact. That's always going to be a fact. But we're not talking about extreme toxic situations where you're doing back and forth, when you're just overly obsessed with, I want to do the right thing, to the point that you do it to the extreme. And then when you feel like you're not being accepted or validated, you go to the other extreme and do all the wrong things. Have you paid attention to some of the people that take Jesus on top of their head? When they decide they don't want Jesus, they go all the way to the extreme other end too. Have you seen that before? It's the same people, same activity, same behavior. Just depends on what pole they're facing at any point in time. It's the same thing, right? It's basically when people are not sure of themselves, this is what they do. You know, they lose boundaries. I had no problem carrying on small talk. Well, yeah, but that's not the issue. That's the least of the issue. Okay? If she found out that you were having small talks with a bunch of girls, the bigger issue is, how did you react? How did you respond to that crisis? As a man, that is the bigger issue. Is how did you respond to that crisis? There's no promise. There's no guarantee that there won't be crisis. It might not have been you cheating. It might have been something else. Maybe you argue too goddamn much. Maybe you talk too much. Right? Maybe you don't listen. She said, hey, listen, I don't like you being aggressive. And you're like, well, I like being aggressive. Like, wait, this is a real thing. Did you listen to that part? Right? Well, that's how I'm being intimate. That's my love language. I just like, well, listen, if she feels heard, you can penetrate everything. Mind, soul, body, mind, super soul, all of it. You can penetrate all of it. But if you're not patient enough until she feels heard, no, you can't touch nothing. Everything is going to be sealed off, blocked. That is still true 100% of the time. The only time that wouldn't be true is if you misfire, miscalculate when it comes to context. Okay? Let me see here. Let me come to the chat a little bit. Adeho, shout out to you, Adeho, for engaging this. Very true. For me, safety is number one. If I don't feel safe emotionally with a man, I cannot give myself completely. I will check out from that relationship. Yeah, you could do all the right thing all you want. She doesn't feel safe. Okay, it's not enough. I'm sorry. Being a good guy is not enough. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, what kind of world are we living in where being a good guy is enough? The same world that has been there since before. You're just not paying attention. That's all. Okay. He justifies his cheating behavior by blaming her for sexually denying him almost every single time. He did. He did. So what if my truth was that, yes, I felt rejected, right? I felt like, well, that's my only out. He's making the same mistake over and over and expecting a different response. Interesting. His response to, the way he responds to crisis is just terrible. It's just bad. That's the main issue here. Okay, I got caught cheating. How do I respond to that? Well, I got caught stealing. I got caught lying. How do I respond to that? I'm a human being. Trying to justify myself at the same time trying to hold myself accountable is just an oxymoron, right? So what's the solution? Maybe shut up for a while, for a decent amount of a while. Maybe just shut up, right? Ask other people, interview other people, right? Right? Like, give people something to look forward to. Have them, because he does have the platform, right? Have them wonder if you were talking about yourself in that moment in time. So when people wonder what you're up to, that's literally, that's damn near attraction. They're attracted. They continue to follow you because they wonder. But when you give it all up, you just mouth diarrhea. Let me just tell everything. There's nothing to look forward to except to just disrespect you even further. Because you're attracting it. Attraction. Undefeated. Undefeatable. Because people mimic the level of respect you have for yourself. Let them wonder. You can still be a content creator. It just doesn't have to be about yourself. What they will still say is a narcissist. Well, yes, they will say that for a while until enough new experiences will drown that out. This same thing will happen in every relationship. If you think that it's just bad and you want to fix it, the best way to fix it is to respect time, process, and patience. And then you need to, obviously, listen, life is going anyway. All of that experience will be replaced to almost drown out. And then you can say, hey, I think you guys would like to know what happened for real. A tell-all from 10 years ago. Oh, by the way, 10 years is very close. You go and ask Stella Damasos. Stella Damasos, who's the other person? I think there's somebody else, right? The 10 years is not that far off, right? People will still, but it won't be as, But because what matters is your personal healing would have taken place, right? At least there's a higher chance because you've taken the time, patience, process, It's a little bit different for Stella Damasos, but you get the gist, right? Time, process, time. You need to be respectful to these elements because without it, everything else is short-termed. And anything that's short-termed, anything that's worthwhile takes time, is a process, okay? There's no overnight anything anywhere. If it looks like overnight, you probably just didn't see the rest of it, of the story. Let me see here. Well, 7:05. Maybe we can run through a few more. What's today? Today is Thursday. Okay. Maybe we can do if we have chance we do.
Okay, I don't know if I can do this because at this point, man, I done got her books. I got a therapist because I'm not getting the version of her I think I'm supposed to get. I'm faithful.
Oh.
That was the first time I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do this. Because at this point, man, I done got her books. I got a therapist because I'm not getting the version of her I think I'm supposed to get. I'm faithful. I'm provisional. I'm still asking about what we can do to fill up her love tank, but she's hostile. She's closed off. At times, she's emasculating with how she talks. Of course, the sex is not even close to being there. And then she said, well, we need to go to counseling.
That's why I'm glad you went right there. And then what happened in counseling? Because that's where she said she revealed, this is before y'all got married, right? And this is where she revealed,
He bought her books. By the way, that is a move of manipulation. Ola, what do you mean? What's wrong with buying books? You will understand later. He bought her books, got her counseling. I'm still being provisional, right? All of this thing that he was doing, right? She just didn't believe, right? Yeah. If you're in a funk with your husband, your wife, the idea of dragging them to therapy, don't do it. Buying them books, right? In fact, if you have books that you're reading, right, that looks like Get My Marriage Back. That's why we did the audio book, because some of you are in a situation where you should be discreetly learning these new principles. I don't want a book called Get My Marriage Back laying around your house when every other week you're arguing with your husband. It's going to come off as manipulation. It's not just manipulation just because you were intentionally trying to manipulate. If it comes off as manipulation, you have to just lean in and say, oh, I wonder why that came off as manipulation, right? Oh yeah, you're now reading some books. Is that stuff that you're reading from that book? That's why you're talking to me like that? Is that what they teach you in that book? And now you feel some type of way, and now you're responding to that kind of talk. It's just messy. It's just messy. Discreet, mystery, attraction, seduction, attraction. That's what you should be paying attention. You can't seduce if everything is just out in the open. If you're predictable, you can't seduce nothing. You can't. That's why we did the audio book. That's why we have Kindles. Okay? Oh, by the way, we have a new book coming out called The Number One Red Flag. So look out for that. That's why. Because it's not going to be as simple as, oh, let's just do the right thing and all is well. The human mind, humans are mad. They don't care. Nobody cares about anything outside of their feelings. No one cares. That's the reality. It's not just women. Oh, he doesn't really know women. Women don't care. No, y'all don't care. None of you cares about anything outside of your feelings. You just overreact once you feel rubbed off the wrong way. Once you feel like something is manipulative or somebody's trying to have an up over you, you start getting defensive. It's all of us. If you don't understand that, you will keep pointing fingers, and that's 4 fingers pointing at you, and you don't know it. You're not aware, right? And then you wonder why you're creating, shout out to Mo Fresh, why you're creating the same results over and over again. Because it's still you, right? You can even jump and pass. You can even jump out also another relationship. You create the same results.
been raped before, right? In this counseling session, that this happened. When did she mention? When did she mention that she had saw stuff in your phone and all that stuff? Was that in this counseling session?
This was.
Word. Let's see here. Okay, this is a good one that's coming up.
No, she already had told me in real life she had saw stuff, but this is where we're going to deep dive through all those things. And at first I was reluctant, I ain't gonna lie to you, man, because it's like, why is the relationship only in trouble when you're unhappy? Why is it that I've been telling you stuff, I'm not...
Why is the relationship only in trouble when you're unhappy? I have felt that way before. I can relate. Okay? When I'm not happy, I have to take the higher road. But when you're not happy, the whole relationship is in trouble. At some point, a man is going to start to feel like, wait, they're going to start buying into the equality thing. Shout out to Auntie B. I heard her today earlier say it takes two. I was like, it takes two? All right, we need to unpack that. Okay? Because there's context involved. Okay? It takes more than two to be real with you. But if you're depending on the other person to be that too, that's unrealistic expectations. More than enough times you're going to feel like this other person, it doesn't matter what side you're on, like this other person is not carrying their own weight. Okay? And when you feel that way, the natural next point of reaction for you is to shut down. Like, I can't be the only one carrying the weight. Right? You yield to them, asking them, actively trying to take from them, and it gets worse and worse and worse because human beings, they don't care about anything outside of their feelings. No one, right? Because the only thing they can't see that you're saying you carry your weight. They can't see that. What they can see is that you're nagging. You're just, it's terrible experience that they're having in that point in time, right? So I can relate when he says, why is it the relationship only in trouble when you are unhappy? That's how he felt. Well, she probably felt 10 times more if she was to put numbers on it. It's like, what? No, the relationship is always in trouble. You always run out there and cheat every time, right? Because men will be like, well, the relationship wasn't exactly in trouble. I just cheated. I was going to get right back to you, right? Right? And he's like, no, you're about to throw everything under the bus. About to throw out the babies with the bathwater just because you feel some type of way, right? Feelings. Who is measuring feelings? What standards are we using to measure these feelings, emotions? Who is gauging and say, you know what, you're wrong. Oh no, you shouldn't have done this way. Oh no, maybe you should have. Your own is too much. When they say your own is too much, what do? They attack the counselor. If a counselor says, well, your own is too much, or watch this. If some elderly person that they call into the matter come and say, they attack that person. That person is now guilty. Now it's like multiple people against the situation. It's just messy and nasty. Is that why you brought that Baba to come and be advising me stupidly? It's just messy. It's all over the place. Why is the relationship always in trouble? Now, if anybody was going to lead that relationship out of that funk, I would prefer it's him. How about... she's unhappy. She's not happy. It's clearly something that I'm not privy to. Not necessarily your fault. There's something that I can't see. There's something I don't know. Right? You see how my light, right? In real life, I wouldn't do that. In real life, I'll be confused as shit. Okay? But the reality is that there's something I don't know. If I ever feel that way, that our relationship is always in trouble when you're not happy, it's because there's something that I don't know. That will be the bottom line. Yeah, something I don't know. And when you're confused, it's time to learn something new. A lot of people just don't get that. They don't understand that. When you're confused, it's time to learn something new. It's not time to argue. It's not time to do competition. Your rib. Don't compete with your rib. That's that religious talk. What do you mean by rib? She's an adult. Well, that's why you're collecting woto, because you think this is religious talk. This is as real as it gets. You went and married that person, and now they've had 2 children, 3 children for you. Right? You didn't carry any of those children, but yeah, that's what women are supposed to do. like I said, who is measuring what is fair and what is not fair? Like, how exactly are we measuring that? Because that game of fairness you're playing, it's not going to work for you. You're going to continue to create the same result again. Or better yet, jump on the internet and start doing what they do best. That's not the one. This one.
I get what I need. I'm paying for personal trainers to help fix your self-esteem, so you can get back in shape. I'm paying for the therapist, the books, the podcast. I'm doing everything, rubbing feet, backs, everything. And it's not enough. And I'm hurt by that. But then whenever you feel upset, now you're ready to save the relationship. So I was reluctant at first, I ain't gonna lie. But I'm like, I'm engaged now. We got a little baby. Let's do this. Let's go.
Going at this point?
Yeah, Marley's already there. She was there like maybe 8 months old. She was very young. And then the counselor, and this was kind of really made it tough for me to continue on, he immediately went into rescuer mode. Danae is a lot better at accessing her emotions, especially painful emotions, than I ever have been. So me and her together, I'm big and I'm extroverted.
It said the therapist went into rescue mode, right? So he resents the therapist. Okay, still till now. Did you hear that? He resents the therapist. He might claim resented, but I think he still resents her, and it's okay, because I know that feeling. Like, you feel like, why are they taking her side? Why is he taking his side? Right? Because it's now become a competition. If you still find yourself in that competitive mode, it will never work. It's better to just stop everything. That marriage will never work when you're in that competition mode. Okay? You're better off just stopping. Like, we're in competition mode. Stop. It's not gonna work. Okay? It's not gonna work.
Talk a little bit. She's a soft voice and, just look like she just been held in the basement or something like that. So
held in the basement.
And immediately she goes in about all the hard things I had done in a previous relationship. So me, ignorant, I never considered all the previous, because I'm like, hold on, in between time we single, you've been dating. I'm thinking, especially because she got her lick back. She got her lick back.
She got her lick back.
I mean, call me what you want, but I still feel to an extent. Once you get your lick back and you even the score, I don't want to. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got one of the guys, and I don't know if she slept with him or nothing like that, but it was one of my homies. She knowingly did this.
No, you can't smash the homie. Jesus Christ.
She upset. She went for guitar lessons and learned everything she needed to know in one night. But I was like, okay, well, my chest hurt just like your chest.
Learned everything you need to know in one night.
But I'm like, you wasn't bad for doing that. Anybody would be, first off, on timing, then secondly, to make me, you know what I'm saying, my chest hurt just like hers did. All right, cool. So when
my chest hurts just as hard did. This competition, even in the attitude, even in the rhetoric, my chest hurt just as much as heart did. Could it work? It's not good to work, right? That's why their marriage ended. If you start picking these things up, if you're sensitive to these things, you will be able to predict these things ahead of time. Okay? You will do enough of it, right? And you will still be good people. It's just lack of competence, okay? On at least one person's side. That's all it takes, one person's side, because the other person can't keep carrying the weight in that respect, right? But if they know what we call seduction, maybe you want two people to carry the weight. Not only that, everyone else that has ever experienced any type of experience with your marriage will carry that weight for you. You're going to need more than just the two of you, okay? Some people call it you need God. Well, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's not going to be, listen, it's got to be bigger than just intentionality. It's bigger than intentionality, okay? That's why don't discount that way. It's not good enough because of children. What? Children are powerful, okay? You're talking about nations, okay? Okay, we're talking about nations. But both of you need to be, whatever idea you subscribe to, they need to be bigger than both of you. Okay, you're going to need all of that to carry the weight. But the idea that two people equally show up, that's the wrong attitude about marriage and long-term relationships in general. It just doesn't work. It will never be enough if you already feel that way. You're going to feel like you're the one carrying the weight all the time. Feelings, right? In fact, you can even bring all your friends together and say, no, that's not fair. And they don't know what they're talking about. Okay? You might know what you're talking about. Clearly, you're feeling weighed down by whatever weight you're carrying. But it's probably not, the solution is not that we must equally show up and wash equal number of plates every week, wash equal number of pata every week. It's none of that. Because that's not how you got to where you are. So it couldn't be that.
We in this counseling session, back to here, 2017. She going in, and I'm in the present of all the things I've been doing. It's the first time I've come this hard for the relationship ever. and financial aspect and the security. I'm the guy down on one knee. I can't do no more than what I've done.
Everything.
But she talking about me like I'm a dog. And the only thing that exists is all the negatives.
Yeah.
I ain't done a single positive. So he not only allowed her to say that, he said, now you got this hard voice with me already. I ain't even said nothing. You don't say a word. Not until y'all come back on another session.
Oh my God.
So it was tough because I'm like, man, my feelings are obsolete the moment that she talked. And she crying and everything, so I get it. But I'm like, man, this ain't it for somebody who...
When he says my feelings are obsolete, that means my feelings were hurt. You don't talk. Oh yeah, a whole me, Derrick Jaxn, don't talk? What do you mean I can't talk? Listen, your ego, pow, 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 at that point in time, I don't care how strong you think you are. If you're a Derrick Jaxn, okay, you get the amount of clout that follow that name around, there's no therapist that's going to talk to you like that. It just doesn't make any sense.
Already deals with chain wounds, abandonment, all this other stuff. We did do like one more session, and in that time I found out she was texting a personal trainer under a woman's name. She had been searching them on Facebook. She had lied about some other stuff. So after that, bro, and she went and said some things that weren't true in the counseling. I didn't want to go no more.
You just say, I'm not going.
No, because I felt like, you're not even approaching this genuinely. And at this point, I was questioning if I wanted to go through with the marriage.
I was about to ask you, so y'all still, but you didn't end the engagement.
Didn't end anything. A big repetitive pattern of, I'm pissed, I'm detached, I'm mentally checking out, I'm gonna show up as the worst version of myself, but I ain't letting you go. So that's a little bit of ego, it's a little bit of abandonment wounds, whatever you want to call it. We both didn't let each other go, no matter how much we was detaching.
That's interesting. I want to stop part one right here.
All right, let's stop part one here too. Okay, let's just stop part one here. Oh more. All right, so I'm going to leave you all with three things. I think three things. And I think we said that more than enough here on this platform today. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Even if you come back to watch replay, I know many of you will watch replay later on. I appreciate you for watching replay. If you're brand new here because I'm talking about Derrick Jaxn, please consider subscribing, consider supporting the platform. We talk about this kind of stuff here all the time. We just take trendy topics and we extract 50, 60, 70 lessons out of it at any point in time. Okay, but here's the thing that I'm seeing here. Shalaye, over explaining yourself, even when you are telling the truth, it doesn't work. Okay, you're probably going to say too much. Okay, and the person you're doing over explaining to probably already made up their mind, at least for the short term, of what they think. Okay, so they're actively listening to only additional ammunitions to destroy you. That's the best. So don't put, you can explain if you need to speak your truth, do what you, but just make sure you have realistic expectations around that. Okay, the second thing is obsession with being right. We talk about that here all the time. It's kind of similar to that. The only reason why you do mansplaining is because you think you're right, but you don't really believe yourself. If you believe yourself, if I say, well, I'm dark skinned, and you said, no, you're light skinned, I'm like, what kind of stupid talk is that? Then I'll assume that, hey, that's a disingenuous conversation. I'm not interested, right? Because you clearly see that I'm dark skinned, right? But when you're not sure, right, then you engage in, now there's a place for debates, but usually when you're debating people, you're not debating about yourself, okay? If you're talking about yourself, shut it off. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All right. Thirdly, the main thing that really stand out here for me is the competition, the fairness. This fairness thing. Let's be fair. You got even, right? Not only it didn't start with just this cheating, so many cheatings back and forth. She cheated, obviously. I mean, I don't know if you need us to spell that out even more. She smashed the Omi, according to him, right? Maybe we're not supposed to believe him because he's the narcissist, quote unquote. I don't know. But he said it, just like she said her own side, right? Oh, she said you smashed the Omi. That's a very difficult thing to come back from. If you're going to come back from that, you need to be sure of yourself. You cannot afford to be insecure at any level. And everything he's been describing since the beginning of that interview, there's a lot of insecurity, which is not a crime, but it's like if you're in a very bad place with your marriage, and then the only way you react is insecurity, right? Like, oh, I feel neglected, I feel rejected. Well, let me go find validation by destroying myself more. If this is the way you respond to crisis in life, right? Obviously, nothing good can come from that. It doesn't matter how much you protect. You can't lie to yourself. Or like on the part two, they talked about They talked about how he would make sure that it's multiple people so he doesn't get in too deep with one person, but it doesn't matter. Okay, you're spreading yourself all over the place. You have 700,000 monitoring spirits on YouTube alone. You're going to be exposed. It's just what it is. At some point, you're going to be exposed. And then when you do get exposed, it's not a crime. It's how you respond to that. Well, there's a good chance you will respond badly to that if you can't even respond to a wife in a way that's wholesome, in a way that's worked for your family. If you can't put a whole family, just a single unit family together, there's a good chance you will also respond badly to 700,000 people coming at you in a negative way. Even if about half of them believe you, right? If about half of them believe you, right? Let me say about 80% of them believe you. Because you're so not sure of yourself, you're always seeking validation, you'll be more focused on the 20% that's speaking negative about you. It will consume your energy, right? And then you will react accordingly, right? Which is usually badly, right? So a lot of this just says, hey, it's not understanding humans. It's not just understanding women. Women, of course, in particular, because listen, women are more expressive when it comes to emotions, right? And women are he actually said that on the second part, which is they're more in the responsive aspects of the sexual polarity. They multiply everything. We create, they multiply. We set the tone, they build a home. That's always true. That is always true, okay? So when you find yourself in crisis, guess what you're going to need to continue to follow along that line, right? That whatever you bring in terms of how you handle that crisis will be multiplied for you too, okay? Yeah. It's like, it's good when it's good, but it's also when it's bad, it's just as much, right? So if you don't know how to do full accountability, which is better and easier when you're quiet, right? When you're quiet and you pick your words strategically with some wisdom, so that when you do fall sometimes, which will still happen, right, it's minimal. You can handle it, because again, it's about handling the crisis as they come. But when you bombard yourself, if you're shooting at her like this, she's shooting back at you 10,000 times more. So when he said, well, I felt emasculated, and she was saying, she was calling me an F-boy and all this, I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because that's what a typical woman would do. They will multiply the whole thing for you, right? That makes sense, right? So what is the best next move to do at that point in time? Shut it down. Shut the whole machine down. Let's start with you, right? That's very difficult. When you're obsessed with being right, that is an extremely difficult thing to do. So you really, really have to engage, practicing, being sure of yourself. Like, listen, I've had some experience. I've done some bad behavior, but obviously that doesn't define me. But if you don't believe that doesn't define you, you respond by trying to, I'm a good guy, but I was good at this time. I was good at this time. I was good at this time. But what about this other time where I was good? She's like, dude, what do you mean you were good? Well, I was provisional. I paid the bills. I paid for books for you to heal yourself. Dude, what? She's your wife. You're not the healer, By the way, she did the same thing on the part 2. So we definitely got to come back with part 2, because the spirituality thing, we have to talk about that. If you're a Nigerian, you know that you're guilty of this. The spirituality thing, oh my God. I'm a church boy myself, but this is going to destroy more people than they realize. Okay? My Yalikiri is asking this prophet, this Alpha, let's talk to this other person. I think it's the person Yeah. But it's going to get worse for some people before it gets better. But we're here. We're working. Okay? We're working. But this was a good part 1. I thought, I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I'll be able to get into part 2, but not today. Not today. Let's end it right there. We're about exactly 2.5 hours in. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share. Subscribe. Okay? Tell everybody that we're here. We're talking. Thank you so much, Ade. I appreciate you. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
na na.